Though the high temperature today in the middle 90s, low tonight will be in the low 70s. Rain chance is still under 20% tomorrow, Friday, but the high temperature starting tomorrow and continuing Saturday, Sunday, and early next week will be in the upper 90s each day. So some of the hottest days of the summer, and over the weekend, some widely scattered storms will start to pop up on radar, few and far between. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
CB&S Bank has digital banking solutions to help you keep up. Check balances, pay bills, and much more. Learn more at cbsbank.com. Charges and fees may apply from your cellular service provider. Contact your service provider for information. Member FDIC.
1819 News.
All of Alabama's House Republicans voted in favor of the SAVE Act, which is the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. That bill did pass the U.S. House on Wednesday night. The sole opponent to the bill from Alabama was Democrat Congresswoman Terry Sewell, who declared the bill anti-democratic and dangerous. The SAVE Act would enforce a requirement for persons to show proof of U.S. citizenship when they seek to register to vote and therefore cast a ballot in future elections. The bill also requires each state to remove non-citizens from existing voter rolls and gives those states access to federal databases in order to confirm or deny a person's citizenship status. Congressman Barry Moore called the bill common sense, that only Americans should vote in American elections. Moore also said that Democrats clearly want non-U.S. citizens to vote because they cannot get most Americans on board with their radical agenda. I'll be back with more Alabama stories after this.
I'm Amy Beth Shaver with Alabama Unfiltered Radio, and when I need the news and I need it fast, I turn to Andrea Tice and the Daily Detail. On my way in, it is the most convenient, best way for me to digest what's going on so that I can use it for our show. She tells you what's going on in Alabama that day first and fast. So listen to the Daily Detail with Andrea Tice. Don't miss out.
The Daily Detail is available wherever podcasts are found.
A Mobile man is facing federal charges for running a drug network that made over $1 million. 40-year-old Glennie McGee was arrested by authorities for having a child wear a child's backpack that was full of cocaine as a means of moving those drugs undetected. McGee faces drug trafficking charges that date back to June of 2017. There are 5 other defendants in this drug operation, including McGee's wife, Tierra Hill. I'm Andrea Tice.
For more news affecting Alabamians, go to 1819news.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter.
Hi, this is Bo Goodson from the Goodson Group with an update on the real estate market in the River region. Sales of homes for the last 5 months will top 1,900 homes. Even though sales are slightly lower, the average sales price is still climbing. First-time home buyers comprise over 34% of all sales, with no slowdown in sight for them. We now have more homes on the market in all price ranges, which gives buyers more choices than they've had in over 2 years. Some helpful suggestions for today's home buyer would be: 1, work with a local lender for your loan approval. 2, list 3 must-haves for your new home and seek to find properties to match your needs. 3, work with an experienced and knowledgeable real estate agent to help you with your search, your showings, and receive advice on offers and negotiations. 4, always use a licensed recommended home inspector when you find the home you choose. For all the details, call Bo Goodson at the Goodson Group at 221-2883 or 551-0225.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's News and Views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
This is how you conduct yourself in a democracy.
Joey Clark.
Welcome into News and Views in the afternoon, or as we're calling this thing online, Joey Clark Live. You can always watch on YouTube at Joey Clark Live, or on the Book of Faces, on my page, News Talk's page, or on Twitter X at the Joey Clark. And, this has been a regular on our show. the one, the only Erica Thomas. She is editor-at-large for 1819 News. Erica, how you doing this afternoon?
Howdy, Joey. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, and for folks who are keeping score, this will be our usual new time, right?
Yes, that's right. We have a meeting every day at 1819 News at 1 p.m., and that was the time that I was on the radio in Mobile. So I had to switch around some things, and I appreciate you for working with me and making it happen.
Happy to. Now, one story that I know you reported on in local media there and your area reported on has now been picked up nationally. The headline there at 1819 News is illegal alien from Honduras facing manslaughter for 6-year-old killed in DUI crash. So what are the details of this?
Yeah, that's right. So this happened in Baldwin County in the Summerdale area. There was a crash at 3:08 a.m. Monday. So this was in the middle of the night, happened on Baldwin County 28. A GMC Yukon left the roadway and overturned, and when first responders got there, they found a little girl, a little 6-year-old, who had been ejected from the vehicle. She didn't have her seatbelt on. So they took her to the hospital, and unfortunately, she later passed away. And there was only one vehicle involved in this crash. So the driver, his name is Zelvin Pavan Gomez of Honduras. He's undocumented here. He was the driver, and he was also transported to the hospital, but he survived. However, as soon as he was released from the hospital, he was booked in the Baldwin County Jail on an immigration hold. But now that she has passed away, he's also charged with manslaughter and DUI.
Oh, and I know this has been picked up by libs of TikTok, and it's just another example of the issues that we're inviting into this country.
Yes, and this is nothing new. The fact that a 6-year-old child was the victim is the tragic part of this and the thing that doesn't happen all of the time. But in Baldwin County, we've seen a huge influx of people from Honduras. There are encampments around the county off of County Road 12. There's one behind a trailer park. These people live in huts that are made of plywood and covered in tarps. And they are here. They're working for the most part. But if you ever look at the jail inmates online, you can see a lot of times we have some of these people charged with DUI in the jail, and they have an immigration hold on them. Now, what happens after the immigration hold is put on them is always iffy. You never know if they're actually, if they could just be released here again. Sometimes, the cases are brought to ICE and they investigate, but all they have to do if they are sent back is come right back over at this point. And so this is an example of how when we open our borders the way that they are right now, we are opening ourselves up to more criminals because these people are not vetted.
Yeah, it really is tragic, and I just hate to see that. And the 6-year-old was in his custody? It's assumed?
As far as we know, they were related, but they haven't exactly came out and said the specifics. And I'm going off of information from the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. That information is confirmed, but there have been a lot of rumors on Facebook and social media and people saying they knew who this was. But I just go off of what I'm told by officials.
Well, it's just a tragic thing to see and hear there. Now, I'm seeing another headline that you recently had. Dobson campaign committed to fighting the epidemic of crime and violence, supports Mobile Police Department officers. I definitely want to get into what Caroline had to say, but if you could, and I'm maybe springing this on you, we've been often on these airwaves talking about what's going on with Montgomery's police department with crime here. What the heck is going on in Mobile? Because I know there's a lot of back and forth right now.
Yeah, so Caroline Dobson is a candidate for Alabama's 2nd Congressional District. So she's been touring around that district, that newly drawn district, and it's Mobile and Montgomery are in there. And so it's interesting, we were just talking about immigration. That was one of her main, platforms when she began her campaign is she lived in Texas for some time, so she saw firsthand what was going on at the border. She saw how this could bring about an epidemic of crime. And so that was one of her top issues. And since she is very concerned about safety and family, crime everywhere is now a big topic of things that she discusses when she goes around all over that district speaking. And so when things started happening in Montgomery, she obviously got in front of that and said, this is definitely an epidemic. We need to do something about it. In Mobile, we have a similar situation as far as crime. Mobile is one of the largest cities in the state. It's massive. And the crime rate just continues to, it depends on who you ask. Violent crime or property crime are two different things. Some of those crimes have decreased, some of them have increased. So she wants to look at, keeping families safe at all times. And one of her big platforms is supporting police department and the officers that have the boots on the ground. And so that's what I asked her about last week. I said, with Mobile's police department, they fired the police chief, Paul Prine, and that's been a huge story for months. Prine came out and made, I don't want to say accusations, but he made claims that there's possible improprieties when it came to the chain of command with public safety and some of the inner workings of the Mobile Police Department. And it's just a huge news story, and it continues because now there's an investigation into those claims by Prine to see if there's any merit to them. So I asked her, I said, the Mobile City Administration, the mayor, and the police, the former police chief, those are two separate entities now. So who do you support? And she said, I support the men and women of the police department, the ones that are working day in and day and night out, watching over the citizens. They're seeing what's going on in the neighborhoods in town surrounding Mobile, and that's who she supports. So I thought it was an interesting take. I think it's a good take for somebody that's running for Congress. If she wins, then she can really look from a federal level to see what can be done, if anything, to help these police officers.
Yeah, and it's a shame that this is such a mess in so many of our cities. I think Montgomery at least now has an interim chief. And so as we search for a full-time one, it seems like Mobile, there's even more mess there with that chain of command. But good on Caroline for focusing, I think, on the folks actually on the streets and on the ground, trying to help with the problems with the rising crime. And before you go, I want to focus in on something I just wasn't aware of. And this is the Alabama Sheriff's Youth Ranches. And they've taken thousands of young people from across the state. So what do they specialize in? What is this all about, these Sheriff's Youth Ranches?
Yeah, the Sheriff's Youth Ranches, there's 4 of them across the state. It started with one in 1966, so it's been around a long time. It's a nonprofit organization that the Alabama Sheriff's Association manages and keeps up with. But they take any youth, any teenager or child that's experiencing crisis of any kind, and they bring them into these youth ranches, and they help them, develop life skills, learn the importance of the American flag and pledging allegiance to it. So it's a very patriotic, but also spiritually and physically helpful camp to go to. And so they have caregivers there with these children all the time. It's a place where they come, they stay the night for however long they're needed to be there. They take care of livestock. They learn responsibilities. They work on a farm. They have farm chores. They do lawn care, but they also do church devotionals. They have sports and clubs. It's a place where troubled teens can go, even some younger children can go and really gain the tools that they need to become successful individuals one day and really give back to the community. And so there's 4 of these. One of them is here in Baldwin County. It's the Boys Ranch there. There's another boys ranch in St. Clair County, and then you have the Fame Girls Ranch in Colbert County.
Oh, yeah.
And there's another girls ranch in Tallapoosa.
Well, I think it's a great idea if folks do want to get involved, if they maybe know a kid or know a family that could benefit from this. I'd imagine they have a website or a number to call.
Yes, the Alabama Sheriff's Youth Ranches, do have a website. You can also call the phone number. It's 334-213-2071, and that story is posted on our website, 1819news.com. Just look for a headline with my name under it, click on it, and you can scroll down and find the story that I did on that over the weekend.
And before you go into the Drag Queen Story Hour there at Books A Million now?
Well, that's tomorrow, and I have family coming in, so unfortunately I won't be able to go. But, there is a lot of information on what's been going on around Mobile concerning that. This all started really to be controversial when Mama Tot, a TikTok superstar for Alabama, decided she would sign on and go read a book to children at a brewery, and it's called Drag Queen Story Time, and this was at Oyster City Brewery in Mobile, and this is a brewery that's opened up before to allow children to take part in witness drag shows, and these drag shows are they don't take their clothes off, but they're very suggestive. They're sexually suggestive. Movements are made, and they're just scantily dressed. It's definitely, a lot of people believe, and I do believe too, it's very inappropriate for a child to be exposed to these type of things. So whenever Mama Tot signed on to do this, it went wild on the internet, and she quickly pulled out of that. She said, I'm not going to do it because, she didn't give a reason why, but it's assumed, and the author of the book that she was going to read also said she was threatened, and so that's why she pulled out of doing that, because she wanted to protect her family. But I think the bigger picture here is people want to protect all families and all children, and the way to do that is to not allow these events to take place.
Well, what a mess. But I appreciate your time and your reporting, as always, Erica, and look forward to this new time we're getting together each week.
Yeah.
So,
Me too. Thank you so much, Joey.
Thank you, Erica. Again, folks, that's Erica Thomas, editor-at-large there at 1819news.com. You can always go to 1819news.com, especially to read my op-eds that drop every Tuesday morning. That's probably the best thing they got going, right? But of course.
Just on Tuesday.
Just on Tuesday. And actually, they got a lot of good things going. But, yeah, if you want to read my stuff Tuesday mornings.
Craig's is pretty good, too.
Craig Monger?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Well, and it's also, Alabama keeps getting hit with these national stories, so that Libs of TikTok picked up the story about the drunk driver who killed the 6-year-old. They also picked up a story that there was a middle school teacher, music teacher in Auburn, who was known openly to be gay and a drag queen, but then this person was on a podcast talking about how they sort of surreptitiously are trying to be there. I'm trying to be that role model I wish existed when I was young and gay. And how the different ways they're saying F your mom's feelings is one quote from the podcast. Like, just do whatever you want. And so that person is now, that was picked up by Libs of TikTok. I saw Craig Monger's reporting as the follow-up, that person is now resigned.
All right, then.
So right there in Auburn City School.
You got your teachers saying, don't listen to your parents' kids.
Yeah.
So much for honor thy mother and father.
They didn't say that when I was in school. They usually said, I'm going to give you a whooping, and your mom and daddy's going to give you a whooping when you get home, too.
Well, and on that, it's a tough subject to talk about in some ways, what I'm about to say. But on my YouTube feed, it just old videos are now popping up for some reason. But y'all remember Milo Yiannopoulos? He was the dangerous F word is what he called himself.
Very outspoken.
Very much so. And he was very flamboyant about it, very gay yet conservative, is when he first kind of rose to prominence as a provocateur, especially on Twitter. And you remember how he was canceled?
seeing as how I don't
remember.
He was supposed to speak at CPAC, and he really was gaining quite a following because you hadn't seen anything like him. Like, he's incredibly right-wing and then incredibly flamboyant about it. And he, on a podcast, flippantly made a joke about how a older priest, older than him, he had a sexual experience with an older priest when he was like 14, 15 years old. And he sort of flippantly joked about it.
Mm-hmm.
As kind of, oh, this is a common thing, darling. And so the left canceled him and the right canceled him, so you can't speak at CPAC. Years or two goes by, he actually does a sit down with Jordan Peterson. And if you go, Milo's now on Twitter again, and he's posting a lot of stuff in this vein. But Peterson asked him straight up, when I saw you on that podcast in that clip making a flippant joke about that experience when you were 14, 15, my clinical training came out saying this guy is really going through something. I mean, it's admirable in one sense to say, I'm not the victim here. I'm not going to play the victim, but you were a victim. And Milo's kind of gone through this whole process of like, yeah, I think I was. I at the time when I was 14, I thought, no, I'm doing this of my own consent. And Milo's now said, as more kids and with family members that are around, he's starting to realize, oh crap, when you see a 14-year-old, you don't just think of yourself when you're 14, right. You actually see a 14-year-old, you see how impressionable, how much they are can make a mistake, how innocent they are. And it kind of hit him like a load of bricks of what happened to him. And it's a very tough thing to talk about, of course, but it makes me wonder, the cruelty of this is out of compassion, like wanting to be that role model. Could you lead a kid astray? I think you could.
Yeah.
Kids are impressionable. So if you're trying to say, if you think you're gay and you need to rebel against your parents, you think the kid might make a mistake?
Yeah, and with that person who made themselves the beacon for all the children like that, would they be able to create distance? It's almost like he wanted to be that flame that the moss kind of came to or attracted or whatnot. And I think he was setting himself up for failure long term. This may be the best situation for
yeah, and in that podcast that the person said that if the wrong people find out, wrong parents find out, I'm fired. And well, not just one parent found out, libs of TikTok found out.
Why would you go on a podcast and say something so stupid though?
Yeah, I know. Well, and at one point, he says he has the kids call him Mr. M, and one of the podcast hosts is like, oh, that sounds like a dominatrix thing. And he's like, oh, you wish? And I'm like, hey. Like, come on. That's just creepy as hell.
Yeah, but this falls into one of those things like, I can't believe it was an accident.
Right.
Like, oh, you mean you thought that you would put something on the internet or out there for the, the masses and someone wouldn't find out about it?
Yeah.
You're not that dumb.
Right.
He's probably trying to use this as a way to create more of a social platform for himself and to gain some notoriety.
Well, it sounds like in the message he put out that he's already got new employment. It didn't say what, but I'm going to resign and I already have a new opportunity.
Magic City Acceptance Academy, Birmingham, Alabama. I put money on it.
Well, and also schools are such battlegrounds for this sort of culture war that is out there. Schools in particular, because there's another fight that's ongoing. That a satanic temple is demanding to be included in Florida's school chaplain program. So you can have a priest, the rabbi, the imam, the pastor, and you've got your,
I don't think that's going to fall into the historical documents.
Say it with me, kids. Hail Satan.
That's what rock and roll's for, man.
Well, not only that, I think of like when I was in high school, which seems like a long time ago, there were people that were confused that would have gone to that.
Yes. This is what I mean by kids are impressionable.
Right. It's not an option you put out there, no more than you put alcohol out there or drugs out there for a teen and go, here, try it. Tell me what you think.
And then I just was watching an interview today on trigonometry with a woman named Lauren Southern. She's Canadian. She was known for being like ultra right-wing commentator online. Like she went and started looking at the migrant crisis in Europe, people crossing the Mediterranean, and how much it just hurt everybody, the migrants included. It was also hurting Europe. And so she rises to prominence as right-wing commentator. She tries to do the trad wife thing. And it turns out the man she ended up marrying Well, this was one of the main triggers for her. Knew it was over and she had made a huge mistake. He had collected a list of every single reporter that had ever written a hit piece about her.
Oh boy.
And then he told her, if you step out of bounds, I'm going to get in contact with them and ruin your life. A husband says that to a wife. So that marriage failed. And the reason I bring up that story, and I think it's a good point, whatever worldview or lifestyle you adopt, and I think some are better than others, but whatever one you adopt, there's a way it can go very wrong, no matter which team you're on. Or what, it's human sin is everywhere and in all sorts of ways.
To your point, I think kids should definitely be guarded from having to make those decisions, and even adults. Once you settle on something, you better own it and be comfortable, in your skin.
See, but
accountability.
But the dumb takeaway of what I just said in the last few minutes could be that Joey is homophobic and he hates traditional Christians. And it's like, no, that's not what I said.
Not at all.
And either way, but that could be the dumb, cynical takeaway.
That's what
Well, somebody wants to make it.
That's right.
Right. So more like, hey, actually, I think this world is incredibly complicated, and what harms a kid, what helps a person is going to be difficult and messy. I'd love the term Lauren Souther used. Everybody's dispensing pills online, the red pill, the blue pill. Michael Mouse was pushing the white pill. I'm like, you just mean hope, man? As opposed to the black pill of despair or something. And Lauren Southern called her experiences the reality pill. You're this online commentator sharing all these ideas. You go live your life based on these ideas, and you end up essentially imprisoned in some hell. And you're like, well, I made plans and they didn't work out. And it's like anybody, I think over 30 something, especially over 50, can go, well, welcome to the world, honey.
Yeah, right.
But I think that's the reality, that you make plans, you make your choices, and these are the values I hold, and stuff's still going to happen.
It is. But what I've learned as a man over 50, you do have to have a plan, though. If you don't have a plan, then you're just really literally spinning your wheels. You just are. That you get caught up in life, and you'll forget what forward direction you were trying to go in, and you just get caught up. It happens all the time. It happens to me at times. Luckily, I got a wife that's not afraid to put me back on the trail.
Well, we got to hit a quick break because I believe Jerick Wilkins, who was candidate for Congress, who ran against Gary Palmer, he just had an op-ed put out yesterday afternoon about the new abortion language in the RNC's platform. He is actually a delegate going to the Republican National Convention.
Okay.
So I look forward to talking to him about that experience and his take, his disappointment as an evangelical conservative about, say, the softening of that language. So I look forward to talking to Jerick Wilkins. I think we have a little bit of a disagreement here.
Okay.
But we can get into that once we start talking to Jerick. And of course, there is now a huge write-up. It's pretty accurate from Axios on Trump's, because they keep demonizing him with Project 2025.
I hear that a lot.
So Trump's come out with this, multi-point plan that this is what I actually stand. They say things, and then So one part of that is saying that no, Roe v. Wade gave it back to the states. Keep that decision at the state level. So we'll get into that and the reaction coming from the right and the left after this.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings 6 till 9 and afternoons 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Sam, and we are broadcasting at Riverside Chevrolet today. Hey, let me ask you about something. Every family is touched with cancer, and you know that. And you got some people in your family too, whether directly or indirectly. Well, we have some new patients that are going to be going for some chemo treatments. Items we are collecting right here at Riverside include new in the packaging fuzzy socks, Boost nutritional drinks, blankets, digital thermometers, hard candy, pill boxes. Now look, it's up to you to help these people out, won't you? Please. Small hand sanitizers, we'd take those too. Lip balm, puzzle pins, puzzles, all kind of good stuff. Please, by all means, make sure you do that. I'm going to be here at Riverside Chevrolet until 12:30. We have our Blue Water Broadcasting blue big old barrel out here, and just drop it in there. I'll even help you take it out of the car or a truck or a van. Come see us, Riverside Chevrolet. We'll be there all the way until 12:30.
The Tierce family has been your local Roto-Rooter service since 1964. Drain cleaning, plumbing repair, and those troublesome septic tanks, no problem. Technology has changed a bit in the last 54 years. Video inspections of lines to locate problems is available, as well as scheduling your appointment online. River Region residents have trusted Roto-Rooter for over half a century. You can too. Call today at 272-7130 or visit online at rotorooteralabama.com.
Call Roto-Rooter, that's the name. And ain't no troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
Sometimes your phone breaks. Ugh. Dude. What the? Seriously? Hey, life happens. But at Verizon, we got you. Trade in any phone from our top brands in any condition and get a great deal on iPhone 15 with an unlimited Ultimate plan. And turn...
No!
Into... Oh, yeah! Only on Verizon.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state, while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com.
Rich Thomas weather brought to you by Wiley Sanders Truck Lines. Truckers, if you are looking for green grass, contact Wiley Sanders Truck Lines. In business since 1959 and still growing. Call today, 855-777-9785.
Well, hi, everybody. We have been enjoying some slightly more bearable weather, and I think that will continue today. Still hot. I've got us in the mid-90s for a high temperature, but the heat index not as crazy as it has been. And the rain chance is just about minimal. Not quite zero, but close. Still, though, the high temperature today in the middle 90s. Low tonight will be in the low 70s. Rain chance is still under 20% tomorrow, Friday, but the high temperature starting tomorrow and continuing Saturday, Sunday, and early next week will be in the upper 90s each day. So some of the hottest days of the summer, and over the weekend, some widely scattered storms will start to pop up on radar, few and far between. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
For the lowest prices around on flooring and DIY flooring installation supplies, Budget Floors and More is your new best friend. Luxury vinyl plank, carpet, ceramic tile, floor installation supplies, and more with prices lower than the big box stores. Budget Floors and More, Hunter Lane across from Del Rey to Publix.
The premier place the River Region turns to for news, weather, traffic, and opinion. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Now, as promised, we have here on the line, Jarek Wilkins. Hey, Jarek, how you doing this afternoon?
Hey, doing great, Joey. Great to be on with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. So, first off, let's talk about, you're going to be a delegate there at the Republican National Convention?
Yes, that's correct. I'm one of the delegates at large for Alabama, so we'll be flying out Sunday afternoon, and then we'll be at the convention all next week.
So before we get into the topic of your op-ed, like, kind of lay out the week for me as you see it, maybe what you're going to be doing, but how you see this, these few days at the convention are going to go in your mind.
Well, this is my first convention, so there's a lot that I don't know, but what I've got from a schedule-wise, Monday's going to be a big day, because that's the day that we'll do a lot of the housekeeping items, approve the final platform, and go from that, which is more a formality from what I'm being told than anything, unfortunately. And then, of course, we get later in the week, and it's Wednesday and Thursday are the two big days, because on Wednesday is when we'll have the announcement on the vice president, and then Thursday is when we officially announce President Trump as our nominee. and there'll be a lot of other activities going on within the perimeter in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and who knows what sort of big announcements are going to come out of that, or maybe some great grand moments from rising stars giving a good speech. A lot can happen there at a convention. Now, for folks who haven't read your op-ed that dropped yesterday there at 1819news.com, I kind of want to give you the floor to give your sense of why you're a bit disappointed in this new party platform on one particular issue.
Well, first of all, I do want to say that overall, I think the platform is very strong in many, many economic issues, the border security component, election integrity, calling out the left-wing gender insanity. So we've got a lot of good stuff in there. And coming from the business world, I like the fact that we're taking a more streamlined approach from a marketing standpoint. I think all of those are very positive. However, there is one glaring core component that's lacking, and that has to do with our pro-life stance. The Republican Party has always been the pro-life party, and we have just watered down that component so much. I was very disappointed with that. And not just myself. I'm hearing from delegates from multiple states that feel the same way.
And so let me read, and this is the actual language that you quote direct in your op-ed. Let me read this as the new language in the platform, folks. Quote, "We proudly stand for families and life. We believe that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States guarantees that no person can be denied life or liberty without due process, and that the states are therefore free to pass laws protecting those rights. After 51 years, because of us, that power has been given to the states and to a vote of the people. We will oppose late-term abortion while supporting mothers and policies that advance prenatal care, access to birth control, and IVF." So it just doesn't go far enough. You would like to see that because of the principled stand that you and many others hold, especially within this part of the world, that we should actually be going for a national standard when it comes to protecting life.
Absolutely, and that's the one glaring difference between the 2016, 2020, and the 2024 platform, is we called for federal legislation to protect all life. Because what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, it should be left to the states. And when we do that, that means we're still allowing millions of babies to be killed in the blue states. And for anyone that believes in protecting life, that's just unacceptable. We've got to do everything we can to protect life. It's a moral failing for us not to do so. We've had that as part of our platform, not just from 2016 and 2020, but for decades. Since in my entire lifetime, it's been a part of who we are as Republicans, is to protect life.
Now, I think there are two responses to where you're coming from, and many others are, and one you address in your op-ed, and that's sort of the practical side of this. We got to be practical in our politics, and we got to win over the, say, independent voter or folks who are on the edge or on the bubble here. What do you say to that concern of practicality?
I don't think we're going to convince anyone to vote for Republicans by watering down the language here. They still know where we stand on a lot of these issues, and we're not going to convince them, oh, okay, just because we're leaving to the states, they're going to come over to the Republican Party now. I don't think that's at all the case. And even if it were the case, it's still more important for us to stand up for principle and stand up for what's right. As I even laid out in the op-ed, I quoted from Proverbs 31 that tells us to speak up for those who can't speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destined to speak up and judge fairly. And I do think we have a responsibility to speak up for the unborn.
Well, and I think the other response, and this is more where I would be coming from, is I have a principled sense of subsidiarity, that there are abhorrent things that can happen, moral decisions made by, say, a given polity that I would not want to live under, that I would disagree with. But I think it would be better for the nation on this issue and many, many others if governance was much more local. And when you look at, say, the culture of Alabama, that's going to be for generations different than the culture, say, of Vermont and certainly of California. Texas is very different than New York. Why not let the local folks hash out this argument and how they are governed? Why try to go for, say, a national standard, which is Rod. I understand the moral argument, and I can hear my common guest, Judge Napolitano, cheering you on for what you're standing for here. He's the one who informed me there have actually been more abortions after Dobbs than before. So what do you make, though, of this idea? And I'm coming from a political point of view, of political philosophy point of view, that I think the best governance is local, and the feds are doing too much on this and many other things.
I don't disagree with you on that. In fact, Joey, you and I agree on the fact the best form of government is local. We believe that. However, I believe that there are fundamental issues, such as the 14th Amendment, that everyone has the right to life, and that should be legislated at the national level to protect life. Is a constitutional issue, and I believe life begins at conception and therefore should be protected at the federal level.
Well, and it would be, though, I don't think we have, say, a national standard against murder, and I guess it's because we assume every state's going to have laws against murder. But it's still, that sort of crime is handled at the state level, not the federal level.
Yes, that's true. Although there are federal laws regarding some aspects of murder too. So they're both federal and state laws regarding that. But in this case, I think it's a constitutional issue to protect life. And unfortunately, there's a moral decay in our country where we don't know in some circles that where life begins. And that's why I think we should clarify that in a federal code. We pushed for that in previous platforms, and I think it's important for us to continue to do that. I'm not okay with millions of babies being killed in blue states.
And I know you're not alone, as you suggested, talking to other delegates. And you also mentioned, is this already essentially set in stone? Like you said, that rules making on that first day is mostly kind of a formal thing?
Yes, and again, Joey, I'm not as astute on the inner workings of the polity within this, but I have been talking with those on Rules Committee and other committees there. And as I understand it, to make a change to this, you'd have to be recognized by the chair, and then it would take a 2/3 plus vote to do so. So I think it's going to be very difficult to have a change here, but I also think it's important for us, even though we may be in the minority, to stand up and say, hey, this is not okay with us.
Well, I would love, Jarek, because you and I aren't going to solve the issue right here. The facts are just what they are. I would love if there are, say, compelling debates going on at the convention. If there's stuff happening, I would love for you to call on the show and just kind of give us an update on this and anything else that you find of interest up there in Milwaukee.
Absolutely. I'll plan on reaching out next week, and it should be a great convention. I'm excited to see the direction we're going with getting President Trump back in the White House. I'm hoping the Democrats don't do anything too crazy, because they're obviously having challenges with Biden right now. But it's going to be a great time for us, and it's okay for us to have conversations and not agree on every aspect within our party.
Well,
it happens with my wife and I. We don't agree on everything, but I think we should talk through these issues.
Now, if you had to pick a VP for Trump, who do you like that's kind of all the names being floated out there?
So personally, I would be a Dr. Carson or a Vivek Ramaswamy fan, but I think any of the candidates that are being discussed all have high qualities behind them.
Yeah, Vivek's my guy, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be Vivek. We'll see.
I would be ecstatic. I think it would be a great way to clean up the bureaucracy in Washington. But I'm not the one picking President Trump.
Oh no! And what a decision! Because I already saw hit pieces on J.D. Vance coming out. The politics of this is fascinating, Jarek. Where there are many people like yourself, evangelical conservatives, Christians that have been the backbone of the Republican Party now for generations, saying, "Hey, why are we softening on this? That has been a North Star for the party for so long." You now see the softening of the language on abortion in the new platform. And, I think they're doing it more for pragmatic concerns. Maybe there are some legal theorists who kind of want it as local as possible. But now J.D. Vance was just hit on an old show. He made a comment on a radio show defending no exceptions for rape, saying you shouldn't punish a child, even if they're conceived in that way. He used the word inconvenient, which, of course, they're running with, saying, oh, rape's just inconvenient. So it is a fraught issue, and it has been for generations. It's nothing new. But I hope something comes out of the RNC that really galvanizes everybody together.
Absolutely, and we've seen with both Vance and Rubio, they've had to walk back some of their strong pro-life stances because of their vying for this VP spot.
Well, you're going to have some fun. I'm a little jealous that you're going up there, but you definitely earned it, and I appreciate the time, Jarek. Again, I'd love to have you on next week.
Thanks so much, Joey. You guys have a great one. Bye.
Again, Jarek Wilkins, folks. I got to know him when he was running for Congress, and I think he's a solid guy. I'll put it that way.
The earth.
Yeah, real good dude.
I don't know how much fun he's going to be having up there.
Yeah, you don't think it's a fun thing?
Talk to a couple of people that have gone to a convention before and check their temperature, see how eager they are to get back.
See, Jack Campbell loved convention.
Well, Jack was a social butterfly.
Yeah.
He's never met a bar in a crowd that he hasn't liked. And you don't even need the crowd, just the bar.
Yeah, there's some things I wouldn't choose to do that Jack Campbell did, but I'm trying to learn from him. Like, from this day, or to this day, people in Texas remember as he gets into an elevator, first day there in Texas with the Republican folks he's working with, gets in an elevator, like 3 or 4 folks in there, and with his mouth, he just goes, was that you? And they were friends to the day he died, man.
I mean, I don't know anyone who met him, first time for 15 minutes who didn't feel like they'd known him his whole life.
Right. So I guess the social butterflies like the party, like the scene, like the sense of being there and doing things and putting a precedent up. And
there's the people who like to go for the prestige, and then there's the people who go to do business. And
that's a different thing.
Man, you talk about more cesspool, more, I mean.
And then the media types get to them.
You didn't have to draw a line there. It all goes in one pump or one pot, man.
Yeah, it does. Oh, I mean, where are y'all? I'm definitely in the camp of let the states decide, not just on the issue of abortion, but many other things.
Yep.
Where are y'all on this?
I'm 100% in that. Let the
Okay.
states decide.
States decide.
So, all right. So here's my question: how do you draw the line between okay, we can let the states decide on abortion, but racial rights or rights for homosexuals? Like what? And I'm honestly asking, what's the judicial theory as to okay, so this falls under the feds versus this is under the 14th and reserved to the states or the 10th or whatever.
Well, on the legal side of that, like the constitutional arguments, I'm not the right guy to give those back to you. I'm more coming from a place of I don't really care what France does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't really care what Russia does. And I'm sure if I lived there, I would hate these things. I don't want to live in those places.
All right.
So I kind of feel the same way about California. Like, I don't care.
All right. So let me take it a different way. So say Georgia allows for abortions.
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be, a big push in Georgia to make sure that you have to be a resident of Georgia to have an abortion? So I'd be willing to bet that there's a lot of red states connected to a lot of blue states, that there's a lot of interstate travel being done.
Well, and this is why, though, I like the idea of more local governance, that a big part of buying into a government and the laws is where you actually plant your flag and put your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And if folks can move in different directions, I think the sorting that happened during COVID, for instance, was, I think, a healthy thing for the nation. And I think this is the way you actually work out very deeply held, fraught issues that you don't have to have a top-down national standard. And in fact, this idea of universalism, we have to spread it to the entire world as well with bombs. It just creates a huge mess. I mean, and you can take that view. If you believe in liberty so much, I remember holding this when I was in my 20s saying, well, it kind of logically follows if we really believe in liberty and we're founded in revolution, why not spread that revolution to the world with force if need be? But then you get into it and you realize, well, if you're turning into Darth Vader.
There are consequences with, all that theory.
Trying to spread that.
There's real bloodshed and real lives and real damage. And
Right.
This is one of those issues that's not technically going to be fought with arms per se, but I do believe that the measure will fail. The one thing that I do hope does not come out of it, which I bet does, the Dems will have some mops in there and they'll get robust, debate or some good snippets of Republicans talking about what life means and how the Dems are evil and have horns, and it'll be up on digital and social media within 4 or 5 hours, and it's going to have the effect. I know where I stand. I'm pro-life, but the question has to be asked realistically. He said, it's about the value and the principles. Are you still willing to stand up for those values and principles if you know that it's going to cost the Republican Party national election after national election after national election? Because that's what's going to happen.
Well, and that's where I didn't want to necessarily go with him in that conversation, but I've seen it. I like Mo Brooks personally, but I saw it with Mo Brooks often, especially that Senate campaign, and I called it falling on the sword of your principles. And it's like, good for you, but you're now politically speaking dead.
Yeah, bro, I know like mega donors that if you're not right on this issue, $0, because they are tired of spending money losing.
Well, and if there are a lot of folks who feel like, well, this is not the Republican Party I signed up for, I'm like, well, either you join this very big tent that's growing in the Republican Party, or you go your own way. And I don't have a problem with that if they want to start up different types of movements that actually hew to principles more so. And maybe you could actually pull one of the major parties a certain way if you really make enough noise.
It's funny that that's what parties are actually designed for.
Right. You actually convince hearts and minds over time.
Yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, Republican Party was founded on the temperance movement, fighting that. As soon as that battle was won, the man who established the Republican Party spent his last years trying to destroy the Republican Party for what it turned into. It just became an apparatus for, some other issue or couple of issues.
Right.
As opposed to what he wanted or established it for.
Well, and we are in one of those times where it's about the issues, but it's also about these deeper political structures that are practical and real, like the nature of the parties, the very nature of the administrative state, the very way we govern and understand the Constitution is up for grabs. And so instead of just, I've got my issue booklet, there are people thinking more structurally now. Like, who do we actually go with? And this has happened in American history before. I think I've joked about it many times on the show. The idea of civil war breaking out is absurd to me, just knowing Americans. It's like, even some folks who really talk a big game, like, give me a break, man. Like, I think people own enough guns and understand them of like, no, nobody wants that fight.
Well,
It would be a bloody mess.
I mean, if you're being honest, if it was symmetrical or versus asymmetrical, whoever's got the bigger bombs, they're going to win.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take the guys with tanks, planes, and bombs over the guys with guns.
Yeah. Oh, now you're sounding like Biden. You're not going to need an AR-15, you need an F-15.
I'm not saying that some things aren't worth fighting for, but you just
Right.
have to know that you're going to die in the process, and maybe they'll build a statue out
Well,
of
and
you
it's
when that'd be
also
torn down later.
It's like if a central government isn't strong, it's obviously going to be civil war. I'm like, yeah, look at all that civil war after the fall of the Soviet Union. What a bad thing for the Soviet Union to fall. Like,
yeah, right.
Oh, Taiwan should be an independent country. You sound like a secessionist. It's just interesting where these lines are drawn for folks.
And when they're drawn, like that's one of the things that I've had fun with some of my Democrat and Republican friends. Like, go find me a map of Asia or China around 1940, 50. Actually, just tell me when you see Taiwan actually listed on the map itself.
It's a good question.
It was right around the time that a bunch of people got out of China and headed over to Taiwan.
The Nationalist Party,
right?
got a lot of them killed by the Communist Party there. But, Mao wasn't that bad. Said the guy who built the MLK sculpture in Washington, D.C. He just made a few mistakes.
A few million mistakes?
This world we live in. Yeah. How about this? Quick break. We'll be right back, folks.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
What's your biggest investment? More than likely, it's your home. So treat it that way when you hire a painting contractor. With PBS Painting, there are no gimmicks, no $99 specials. Just quality painting and someone who treats your home with the same respect that you do. At PBS Painting, we have been painting for years and look forward to many more years to come. With PBS Painting, the job gets prepped properly, whether it's cleaning, scraping, or priming. We always use quality products, which is a must for a quality paint job. So if you're looking for a painter that doesn't need upfront money and is on the job at all times, please give me a call. Scott Bowers and PBS Painting, 294-5122. That's PBS Painting, 294-5122. Look at some of our work on Facebook at PBS Painting Montgomery.
Hey guys, this is Todd Clark with River Region Contracting, your premier roofing contractor in Central Alabama. So remember the name, River Region Contracting, for all your roofing needs. We're not affiliated with any other roofing company in the River Region. We've been in the roofing business since 2005. We don't have to buy our leads, and we don't have to knock on doors when the storms come around. We have thousands of satisfied customers throughout Central Alabama. So call us at 334-356-8635. That's 334-356-8635.
Trustworthy, accurate, immediate. Carrying your voice across the River Region. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Coming up after the top of our break, which is soon, we'll have State Representative Shane Stringer. Looking forward to talking to him. He is the author, sponsor of the constitutional carry bill that became law. And that's definitely, with rising crime been in the news. A lot of people blaming that for rise in violent crime. I don't buy it, but we had to go to the guy who really put it through the Alabama legislature, made the arguments there in committee on the floor, and look forward to talking to him. Let's quickly go to Biloxi Gambler. He has the answer.
He's got some answers for you.
Okay, y'all were talking about red state, blue state abortion. Let me tell you anecdotal thing. Okay, now, Alabama, now this is similar. Alabama, we do have medicinal marijuana. We just don't have a way to get it out there.
Right.
And I know we've got callers that talk about it sometimes, occasionally, rarely.
Right.
But anyway, so I'm in Ocean Springs and going to Biloxi there across the bridge, and there's this building, and it's you've heard of Starbucks coffee. Well, it's called Starbuds. And it's a marijuana dispensary. Well, I got time. I'm on vacation. I go in. I talk to them, get some brochures and everything.
Sure.
And okay, here's the deal. Even though we've got marijuana legal in Alabama, to get marijuana in Mississippi, this is the same thing with the abortion people. This is what I'm saying. Okay, to get it there, you've got to have a Mississippi doctor prescribe it. And you have to be a Mississippi resident with a photo ID, government-issued ID, or utility bills. You have to be a resident of Mississippi, have a Mississippi doctor write a prescription to buy marijuana. So even if you've got an Alabama prescription, they don't have the, whatever it's called.
Reciprocity.
Reciprocity is the word. Thank you, because we're in a hurry. But anyway, so that's the way they do the marijuana, and so I guess they could do the abortion the same way, because the legal theory would be the same way. You'd have to be a Georgia resident, Alabama resident, couldn't go from Phoenix City to Columbus and get an abortion. If you can't buy marijuana that way, I don't know why you can get an abortion that way, and that was my contribution to the conversation.
No, and it's a good one. It's actually one Steve Marshall, I know, has been hashing out to a degree with folks trying to offer some of these getaway services or whatnot. So I appreciate it, Biloxi.
Yeah, but it would only take one state to not had that philosophy.
Right. Oh yeah, no, and this is the complexity that then arises. But I'd rather that complexity play out at the state and local level than at the national level.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, the fear on anything national like that is, I personally don't like trying to legislate morality. I think that it's proven that it fails time and time again.
Every time.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, but all legislation has some moral basis.
But there's money to be made
well,
on
I'm
that.
not saying that it shouldn't be morally based, but I'm just saying whenever you look to the government to fulfill the roles that parents should be fulfilling, then often things kind of don't happen the way that they should, right?
Oh yeah, we got to hit the stop the hour break, guys. Go ahead. Got a state rep hanging out on the line. We got to hit this break. We'll come back to State Representative Shane Strayer after this.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. President Biden will try to quiet doubts about his abilities at a late-day news conference in Washington. Mr. Biden and his campaign hope to use the event to fend off continued calls for him to withdraw from the presidential race, given concerns about his age and mental fitness. That news conference at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. An executive from Houston's biggest utilities has about 500,000 customers whose power was knocked out by Hurricane Beryl will still be without power next week. CenterPoint Energy has struggled to restore the power to affected customers. The company expects to get hundreds of thousands of more customers back online in the coming days, but others will wait much longer. On Wall Street, stocks are mixed. The Dow ahead 49 points, but the Nasdaq losing 317. This is SRN News.
Government debt is now exploding by an unprecedented $1 trillion every 90 days. Think of that. It's a clear sign that our nation's finances are spinning out of control, and it's putting the savings of every one of you at risk. Hello, I'm Lance Wallnow, a news analyst and best-selling author and an evangelical leader. I'm deeply concerned about the impact this runaway debt is going to have on Christians like you who have worked hard to build your own nest egg for your family. To protect your financial future in these uncertain times, you need to diversify with something tangible and proven, like physical gold. That's why I recommend a gold IRA. To learn more, text FAITH to the number 989898, and my friends at Birch Gold Group will rush you a free info kit on how to move your IRA or 401k to physical precious metals, tax and penalty free. So don't wait. Just text the word FAITH to 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs. Birch Gold Group is the only company I trust. There's no obligation. So text FAITH to 989898, and I pray this information helps you achieve prosperity and peace of mind.
The Rich Thomas Weather Network, brought to you by Alabama Wholesale Lumber. Alabama Wholesale Lumber, serving the river region with the best quality building materials for decades. Contractor to do-it-yourselfer. Call Alabama Wholesale Lumber.
Hi, everybody. We have been enjoying some slightly more bearable weather, and I think that will continue today. Still hot. I've got us in the mid-90s for a high temperature, but the heat index not as crazy as it has been. And the rain chance is just about minimal. Not quite zero, but close. Still, though, the high temperature today in the middle 90s. Low tonight will be in the low 70s. Rain chance is still under 20% tomorrow, Friday, but, the high temperature starting tomorrow and continuing Saturday, Sunday, and early next week will be in the upper 90s each day. So some of the hottest days of the summer, and over the weekend, some widely scattered storms will start to pop up on radar, few and far between. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
John Bobo with Capital Tractor. Don't miss our great package deal right now on a 25 horsepower Kubota tractor with front end loader and more. All for 0% APR 84 months with approved credit.
Now through September 30th, 2024. See Capital Tractor or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
Did you know that 1 in every 3 people are expected to be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime? 1 in 3. That's an astonishing statistic that impacts almost everyone. The Cancer Wellness Foundation of Alabama serves cancer patients in the river region and gives help and hope to those who need assistance on the road to recovery. This is where we come in. Blue Water Broadcasting and Riverside Chevrolet ask you to join us in our Operation Help and Hope. We're collecting items to go in chemo comfort care bags that are offered to all new cancer patients. Items we're collecting include new in packaging fuzzy socks, Boost nutritional drinks, blankets, digital thermometers, hard candy, pill boxes, travel size tissues, small hand sanitizers, lip balm, puzzle books, and pens. Bring your donation to Riverside Chevrolet on 231 in Wetumpka. Riverside Chevrolet. When you think Chevy, think Riverside. Donate what you can. Operation Help and Hope from Blue Water Broadcasting and Riverside Chevrolet.
To find out how you can help, go to newstalk931.com.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's news and views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
You know you conduct yourself in a democracy?
Joey Clark.
Welcome back to News and Views in the Afternoon, or as we're calling this thing online, Joey Clark Live. And as promised, we have here on the line State Representative Shane Stringer. Of course, we want to talk to him because with the rise in violent crime, in particular conversation here in Montgomery, but around the state, some folks have been blaming that rise on the constitutional carry bill, and Representative Stringer here was the sponsor of that bill. Let's say it was his to shepherd through the process. Shane, great to have you on the program. How are you this afternoon?
Hey, doing great, Joey. Thanks for having me.
So when you hear, say, mayors or others saying, well, it's because of this constitutional carry law that we're seeing so many young men in particular killing one another, what say you?
You know, Alabama's been an open carry state is my whole life. And, you know, we've never had the problems we've had the same problems over the years. Nothing has changed since we passed this bill. To think that the mayor of Montgomery believes that the law-abiding citizens of Montgomery has anything to do with these crimes is ridiculous.
And so I'd imagine when you're pushing this thing through the legislature, there was pushback of, what about, this is a tool for law enforcement. I know the Sheriff's Association and different sheriff's offices made some noise. So what were those sort of debates like, and how did you finally kind of put those concerns to bed to get this thing passed?
Well, I mean, first of all, I've been a law enforcement officer for 33 years now, and I used to be opposed to that legislation, and mostly because of the false narrative and false information that I had been fed about that. But when I decided to carry the bill, I did a lot of, or actually before I even decided, I did a lot of homework and reaching out to sheriffs across the country that already had this legislation, and pretty much every single one said nothing changed. I had a couple that said the crime actually dropped in their areas, but the others, said nothing changed. Crime didn't go up, nothing happened. It was a large misinformation that was put out during the legislation, as we were trying to get it passed, but there was just a lot of misinformation being put out. The constitutional carry or the permit system never had anything to do with long guns and shotguns, rifles, that kind of stuff. But the fact is, the people that are doing these crimes are prohibited from owning guns in the first place. They're criminals. They're not the law-abiding gun owners of our communities. These are bad guys that are breaking the law that we have in place for murder, robbery, assault, rape, everything else. So to think that a $20 piece of plastic is going to prohibit that is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I've been trying to get numbers on like how many guns and arrests were made from, say, a traffic stop. There's a gun, somebody doesn't have a permit, so we take the gun away. And I don't think there's even enough data to get a good number on that, which makes me think there are other things at law enforcement's disposal where they can go after, say, folks who shouldn't have weapons.
Absolutely. And another thing is Representative Proncy Robertson passed the lifetime permit bill in 21, which also included a prohibited person database that law enforcement has 24-hour access to see who should not have firearms. The current permit system, most of the permit offices were only open from Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. If a law enforcement officer stopped somebody after hours, they could not even confirm if the permit was valid. We had 67 counties in Alabama with 67 different looking permits. You, as a police officer, I didn't know if I was looking at a real one or a fake one. I mean, there's the permit system was flawed in so many ways. The ATF audited our permit system twice. One time it was 19 departments were not running the background checks, just selling the permits, 2 felons included, and people that were prohibited. And then they came back and did it again, and I think it was like 21 departments were issuing permits to people that were either felons or prohibited. So, what the legislature has done since 21 with the prohibited person database has made our law enforcement safer, and then passing of Constitution Carry has also. The city of Mobile has had the lowest, in 2023, they had the lowest crime rate in 35 years, since 1988. I mean, and that was the year that the Constitution Carry took effect. So I don't hear anybody trying to give the constitutional carry legislation credit for that, but I sure do hear some of the Democrat mayors around the state trying to blame their crime on the bill.
Now, with the crime being the issue, and again, folks, we're talking to State Representative Shane Stringer. You're there in northern Mobile County, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And yeah, for folks who don't know, how many terms, like a little bit more of your backstory?
Yeah, I've been in law enforcement for 33 years. I ran in 2018 and won my first seat. I'm on my second term, halfway through it now. And, I've been in law enforcement. I've got one of my sons is a police officer in Baldwin County, and I've got most of my friends and family in law enforcement. The last thing I would ever do is do anything that would make it unsafe for them and help them. The fact is, the permit bill did not affect any of that. As a police officer, I would say 80% of the no pistol permit warrants that we were arresting people on were secondary, where we would pull somebody over. They would have a warrant. You get them out of the car, you search the car, incident to arrest, and you find a weapon, and they don't have a permit. Or you smell drugs, you arrest them on drugs, and then you get them out, incident to arrest, you find a permit. And most of those charges were being dismissed. So, and now instead of charging somebody with a misdemeanor, no pistol permit charge that's likely to get dismissed or thrown out, law enforcement is now able to charge these people that are prohibited with a felony, certain persons forbidden charge. So this is a no-brainer. I mean, anybody that's trying to twist the narrative and change the facts of things is delusional.
Well, and recently I had a conversation with Reed Ingram and State Rep Reed Ingram and then State Senator Will Barfoot here in the studio. And they've been kind of, because of the crime in Montgomery, but also seeing some of the issues around the state, have been trying to put together maybe a few different ideas that could help with this issue. Obviously, I'm not looking for a yes or no today. I more would like to take your temperature on some of these ideas. Like one, for instance, the local district attorney, Daryl Bailey, has been trying to get our local representatives there in the legislature to pass is if you commit a violent crime with a firearm, you lose your right to a firearm. Others include, actually some liability and accountability for the guardians and the parents of these juveniles committing so many of the crimes. Sadly, it is a lot of juveniles. And also there's even a, say, takeover bill that if, there's problems at a department, the AG or the governor could appoint somebody to be an interim chief. Those are just some of the ideas I've heard floated. What's your sense? Does the state have a role that it could maybe supplement or help the cities out with their crime issues?
Yeah, and I've been in contact with D.A. Bailey and Senator Barfoot and Representative Ingram. Got some good ideas, and I applaud all of them for thinking outside the box and let's figure out ways to address this. I firmly believe that stiffer punishment on these criminals that are using weapons in the crimes, absolutely, man. Let's make some stiffer penalties and address that. But the fact is, as a police officer, you see it time and time again where, I'll hear a judge give a light sentence and they say that it's due to the overcrowding in the jails or prisons. And, my thought is that is not their responsibility. I can't just stop policing and protecting our community because the jails are overcrowded. That is DOC's job to handle that. So I think that if we all stick to doing our particular job, that we can help out, and that includes the state legislature.
There you go. And given your background, what do you ascribe to this a lack of recruitment and retention? I mean, force levels at police departments around the nation are low. Some cities are trying to climb back up. But why do you think we're having such a recruiting retention problem with officers?
Well, that in itself is one of the many facets of this problem. We've got issues at home with these problematic children and teenagers and young adults. We've got society issues. We've got lots of issues. So, to say that the permit bill is the problem is false and misleading. To talk about the recruitment problem and retention in law enforcement, it is a nationwide problem, and there's lots of reasons for that. One of the reasons I've seen and continue to see is we have got to have elected officials, mayors, that are going to support their law enforcement. They have got to stop making excuses why we can't do our job and let hire the proper chief and the proper staff to run their department, and they've got to trust them and back them in order to get the trust and support. If not, the good officers are not going to want to come work there, and they're not going to want to stay there.
Makes sense to me. And, I appreciate your time today. I really do. And because I was a supporter of the constitutional carry law, I remain a supporter, and I just thought it would be worthwhile. I guess my neighbor told me, why don't you have on the guy who actually wrote the thing? I'm like, okay, let's do it.
There's been a lot of misunderstandings, with people across the state and in reference to a lot of our gun laws. So, getting the information out to citizens and letting them realize that the permit bill didn't change who could or could not carry a gun. It didn't change the places you could or could not carry. So, really, the only thing changed is the absolute requirement to buy a permit.
Well, there you go. Well, I appreciate your time, and would love to have you back on when the time is right. Again, State Representative Shane Stringer, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I do appreciate his time and insights. And that's fascinating because we often hear, right? Eddie's been here most of the days when we talked about this, but you've heard it too, Byron, where all the law enforcement and all the mayors were against this stuff. And so the sponsor of the bill was actually 30 years in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. It's a little different. And we actually, John Lott, big Second Amendment guy, nationally renowned, was in Trump's, I think, Attorney General's office, or Trump's DOJ. He was saying that, they found with constitutional carry in some areas, crime goes down, or it's just has a negligible effect in general. But the idea that places that we are already seeing a rise in homicide is attributed to a thing that happened after the rise began, I just don't buy it.
Yeah,
and haven't bought it from the beginning.
I definitely don't buy the more crimes happening because this bill got passed. I mean, law-abiding citizens are going to be law-abiding citizens, and criminals are going to remain criminals. I was more actually interested in the whole database comment that he was talking about. I didn't realize that was passed a few years earlier, and I'd love to know if that's something that can be readily accessible from any government employee, in law enforcement across the state. Like, how refined is that? How quickly is it, updated in real time, that sort of stuff? Like, if someone gets popped down in Mobile this morning, they're still angry. They come up here to Montgomery, but Montgomery's law enforcement know about it.
That's a good question. Well, and it's sort of like we were talking yesterday. Elon Musk has a general lesson with engineering and design is like engineers so often are taught to optimize a thing that shouldn't exist. And I think there's a lot of aspects of our government that are well-intentioned and they sound good, but in many cases they shouldn't exist to engineer a system that actually is sound and efficient. Maybe you get rid of a lot of, say, the stuff that you just don't need, and then you optimize the bare bones. But that's not how government works.
Yeah, you're talking about getting the beast to, kill part of itself, man. You know the government does it to decrease.
Well, that's the problem with relying on the government for so long.
That's probably.
And what I would like to get back to is the basics. Like, theoretically, why do you need government? To protect people and property, to essentially protect basic rights against force and fraud. And, like, our judicial system, not just in the state, but nationwide, is a mess. And it's probably because the governments have had a monopoly on that stuff for so long. Now, I don't expect them to go full competing courts anarcho-capitalists like I would love. But there need to, I think, be massive reforms to the judicial system. I mean, in terms of a right to a speedy trial and so many other ways that we're going about this that we're not accomplishing that.
I think I may have asked this question before, but has anyone thrown out a number like how many people would be released from Alabama prisons if they just released the people that were there from the old three strikes rule from the 90s?
I don't know.
I mean, I would have to assume that would alleviate some vacancies, and some of these folks who are just kind of going through the revolving door of our judicial system might find a more permanent residence.
And the prison side of this, we haven't talked enough about on these airwaves. In fact, for some reason on that issue and many others, I kind of want to talk to Clyde Chambliss. I hadn't talked to Clyde in a while. And just the sense of, I don't have all the details in front of me, but the feds just jumped in on another lawsuit about Alabama's prisons. And, obviously we know the whole ARPA money only is enough for one prison? That when they had hoped that 1.2 billion, and they didn't even get to the 1.2 billion figure, would be good for two.
Yeah, I mean, do we know that's how much it is? I mean, like, what were the other competing designs? How much?
We don't.
Right. This is the
we
issue.
don't.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
my brother-in-law said this is how much it's going to cost. That's what
So
that's how that works.
That's a whole other aspect of the issue.
There you go, one and the same.
Well, we got to hit this break first, though. This part of the program brought to you by Josh and Leslie Ryder there at Dillon Rings. And, of course, they're doing Christmas in July at Dillon Rings. Real exciting news. So you can make Christmas easy this year by taking advantage of their special layaway option on their beautiful jewelry pieces and enjoy 10 to 45% off until the end of July. So don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to secure a perfect gift for your loved ones while saving big. You can start your holiday shopping here early, Christmas shopping in July, and be stress-free with the great folks there at Dillon Rings. And they are a full-service jewelry shop, folks. When they say 10 to 45% off, you got to go see that selection.
Oh, yeah.
From high-end to everyday stuff, at all sorts of styles, like really, men and women are going to love it. Really cool stuff.
Fellas, if you're in the doghouse, go take advantage of that 45 off.
Yeah, and then, of course, they can do so much more there at Dillon Rings. They're a full-service jewelry shop, from repairs to custom design to appraisals, even spa treatments to make it shimmer and shine like it used to, that jewelry of yours. Check out Dillon Rings today. You can always go to DillonRings.com or search for them on the Book of Faces or Instagram, but I really encourage you to stop by their showroom, 119 Brown Springs Road, right here in Montgomery, just off of Atlanta Highway. And be sure to tell Josh and Leslie Ryder that Joey, that fellow on the radio, sent you.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings 6 till 9 and afternoons 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, here's today's top stories. A new charter school will soon offer another education option in Prattville. Ivy Classical Academy classrooms will be located in the High Point Town Center. The school plans to open in August with an enrollment of more than 600 kindergarten through 5th graders. Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed hosted a town hall meeting at AUM Tuesday night. More than 300 people turned out seeking answers to rampant crime in the city. Mayor Reed addressed the issue, saying they were looking into multiple strategies to reduce crime, including an initiative with at-risk youth. A man is in critical condition after being shot in Montgomery Tuesday night. The shooting happened outside the Eastern Boulevard Walmart near Troy Highway around 9 p.m. The adult male victim was transported to a local hospital with a life-threatening gunshot wound. Suspect and motive remain unknown. From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, I'm Sky Mosley.
Make 2024 the year you break away from the chain stores and join us here at Adams Drugs. We value your business and want to provide you the best customer service at the lowest possible price. We've been serving up excellent customer service here in the River region for over 62 years.
I made the swap to Adams Drugs and I couldn't be happier. Having a job and then getting 3 kids to all of their activities keeps me busy. I don't have an hour to waste waiting on a prescription. At Adams, they know me and my family. I get in and out in minutes, and when I can't get by Adams, they'll bring the prescription right to my door.
What are you waiting for? Come in to Adams Drugs and let us earn your business. Our friendly and personal staff will talk with you and answer any questions you may have about your prescriptions. Your satisfaction is our #1 goal. Visit us at adamsdrugs.net for the location nearest to you. Adams Drugs is your local independent Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, taking the time to listen and care.
If you're new to Medicare, the ins and outs can be complicated. At Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama, our local advisors are here to help answer your questions, and we're here to help you find a Medicare plan that fits your needs. Visit bcbsalmedicare.com or call 1-844-627-5612. Now, Medicare, that's focused on you. Blue Advantage is a PPO with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Blue Advantage PPO depends on contract renewal.
This is your roving reporter, and today I am talking with an elk. Hey man, Mr. Elk, I was just wondering, what do elk do to take care of their money? Well, like most smart folks, we call David Ernest. You mean Alabama's most favorite asset preservationist? That's him, man. We call him up at 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. I see. Yes, he is our preferred money man. The money man with the money plan. You've been paying attention. Well, could you give us those numbers one more time? 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. And I just want to try to give you a heads up, man. Oh, what's that? I'm not an elk. Not an elk, huh? Well, then, pray tell, what are you? Knights of Columbus. I am not even going to make a comment. Well, the baby liked it.
Are you tired of the mainstream media's biased reporting? Do you want to stay informed on the news that really matters to you? Look no further than 1819 News. At 1819 News, we bring you the latest in Alabama news, politics, sports, culture, and more. We've assembled a team of journalists with Alabama values dedicated to the truth and the truth alone. Visit us at 1819news.com today. That's 1819news.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. Honest News, Alabama Values. This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
All the headlines the mainstream media won't touch. Your News Talk station. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back to News and Views in the Afternoon. I'm Joey. That's Eddie in his, what is that, a palm tree shirt?
Yes. It's my, hey, let me get you a drink shirt.
Yeah, I kind of got that vibe.
I'll take a double.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
it's going to be a little bit fruity. This is I'm going to get you some type of daiquiri kind of shirt.
All right.
Or it could be like when we're in Jamaica, we get these dirty bananas.
Dirty bananas?
It's like I know it sounds silly, but it's like
sounds like a position.
Chocolate sundae, but with liquor in it.
Well, you know, especially for the longest time, I now have the nicotine pouches, but I dipped, and I like tobacco a lot. I still like cigar and whatnot. It's probably the best cocktail I ever had was it was Atlanta, trying to think, remember the hotel, very nice restaurant on the top floor.
Mm-hmm.
And the bartender said, I can do you a smoked tobacco old fashioned. And I'm like, well, you're just going to put some cedar in there? And no, it's a little more involved than that. And it tasted like I'm having a great cigar, like the good part of it, not just smoke, with a great bourbon drink. It was like one of the best things I've ever had.
I'm intrigued because old fashioned's my go-to.
Yeah, old fashioned's great.
I just have to ask though, why not have the cigar and the old fashioned?
Well, we were in a nice restaurant.
Non-smoking.
Yeah, non-smoking section.
Obviously
You
not.
can't have
that
nothing.
nice
You
of
know,
a
you
restaurant.
give them an inch, they take a mile.
Yep.
I, by the way, love old videos. Like, I got to wear a seatbelt in my car. The hell's it? And I can't drink a beer on my way home
From work. It's
from
been
work.
a long day.
Like one beer.
Right. It's been a long day. I can't have a
Because
cold,
nobody
cold beer
does
from
that
hell.
anymore.
Airplanes, man. Airplanes with the smoking back in the day.
Oh yeah. When we went to Turkey, we left actually from here. Every flight, it was just like a haze at about the 4.5, 5 foot mark on the plane all the way up. It was just smoke the entire time. And as a kid, my dad smoked, so it didn't bother me.
Right.
But as a kid nowadays or an adult nowadays, if you even think about lighting up a cigarette, man, they'll arrest you right there on the plane.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever bought a pack of cigarettes from one of those?
Oh, the vending machine?
Pull vending machines.
How do you think we did?
I was
early
never
smoke?
really a cigarette guy. I was the guy if I got fairly drunk, I'd be like, "Can I bum one?"
Well,
but
no, that's just
I was
from like
it was-
were
I didn't
you
like
growing
cigarettes.
up, and was that a thing? Do you remember?
Yeah, I had an uncle or two. Yeah,
Send you
it was
to get
around.
Smokes from
Yeah.
Yeah, send you to get there. But I'm so old, you used to go it'd be pack sack, and you could buy beer or cigarettes as long as your mom was in the car, your dad was in the car, and you'd kind of wave at the clerk. That was the way it was done because they were too lazy to go.
Yeah, I just never liked cigarettes. I don't know what it was. I just never got into it.
It's the additives.
No, I'm starting to remember when I first started doing tobacco on a regular basis.
Yeah, but have you ever had a
No, it was at Parks and Rec, and Terrell would always smoke Black and Milds.
Black
And
and
I
Milds.
love the smell of them.
Yeah, but the
And
taste.
so I'm like, the taste is all right. But, while we're sitting there doing nothing, I'm like, well, I'll buy a pack too. I'll sit with you and talk with you, man. And that's when the nicotine addiction really
That's where it began.
That's where it began. And it went to chew and dip it.
Oh, yeah, we used to do a lot of dipping.
Goodness
Hawkins.
gracious. It's gross, but it's so good at the same time. Let's go to simpler days. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. I can still hear the sound of one of my partners taking his cigarette and tapping it on his cigarette lighter to get the tobacco tight.
Yep.
And the hula girl on the cigarette lighter, her top would come down and go back up.
Yeah.
Those were the good old
Yeah,
days.
they were.
I had a pin like that.
Back
I got
when-
in Germany. I thought it was the coolest
What's
thing
the
ever.
phrase? Back when men were men.
Men were men.
There you go. And you could slip into the pack-a-sack, and while the clerk was tending shop, you could flip the cover of the Playboy magazine and read the article.
But of course.
Yeah, good interviews.
Those were good days.
Mm-hmm.
But glad you had the sponsor of the bill on Joey and gave some clarity. And one of the things I found enlightening was when you asked him about recruiting, he didn't mention a tax. He didn't mention raising taxes, an occupational tax to help recruiting. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. Yeah, because I've gotten so used to people saying that.
She was the first.
Yeah,
thing I
like
remember.
yesterday. I mean, like yesterday, the good council member mentioned it several times, and Birmingham, Bessemer, both have occupational tax, both have high crime, but Huntsville, they don't have an occupational tax. Madison doesn't have an occupational tax. But, raising taxes is the fix for everything now. And the other night, the mayor was struggling. He said, I need to find a way to fund these officers when the reserve that we have from not having 500 officers goes away. How are we going to fund it? We need an occupational tax. Well, I've got some suggestions for him.
Okay.
Number one is don't spend the $6 million on the shakedown crew from Chicago.
Good idea.
Put that towards salaries. Number two is that the salary you're going to pay this advisor from Mobile, put that towards salaries. Because if you got a really good police chief like he was saying, you don't need an advisor. That's who you lean on. Because you don't need an advisor for the police, for the fire department, for the fire chief, and you don't know anything about fire suppression or hoses or ladders, but you depend on your chief. And then number three is why why don't you do away with those $90,000 high country vehicles for your staff and let them drive a fully loaded $50,000 vehicle? And stop this silly search for a chief wasting the money paying a group in Texas when you can call the Alabama Peace Officers Association, get a name from them, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 names you can call. Sheriff Cunningham, I'm sure he could help you. And oh, by the way, you didn't need a search committee to help you find the advisor or the interim chief. So please quit wasting money and quit raising the flag about more taxes. It's not taxes. It's just what that gentleman said. It's all about leadership. Thank you.
Appreciate
Hey,
it, Simple Days.
Well, the thing about taxes is whether it fixes a problem or not, they get to keep the money and the taxes keep rolling in.
Oh, yeah. They love that.
Yeah, I'd rather go back to the days when men were men.
I like this search committee thing. You know, you would think that mayor being an extremely popular person
Right,
in
there'd be
town and
people-
being connected and knowing virtually everyone, especially coming from a political family, would probably have a pretty short Rolodex of people that he would like to lean on or turn to on, say, the issue that might be maybe destroying the city that he's mayor of. Might not need a search committee for that.
We got to hit another break in a second. First, this part of the program brought to you by Cole Plumbing. James Cole and the team there at Cole Plumbing are ready to help you with any and all of your plumbing problems, including if you have a massive leak. It could be inside or outside. You don't really know where it's coming from. You know it's causing a huge issue. Well, Cole Plumbing has this proprietary pipelining technology that allows them, with minimal discomfort to you and your home, to get in there and solve the issue. What does that mean? It means they don't have to tear out a bunch of drywall.
Right.
Or dig up a huge hole or sometimes a trench in your yard trying
Don't
to find
have
this
make
thing.
that big old mess.
No, it's precision and expertise. They can clog up that leak, get the pipe like brand new. Pretty impressive tech they have there. And of course, they can help you with everyday plumbing issues, from a clogged drain to low water pressure, maybe even a gas line leak. Could be you got a basement and your sump pump stops.
Ouch.
And maybe you're looking to upgrade to, say, a tankless water heater system, or to a bidet if you're looking to be real
paperless.
fancy, or a taller toilet if your knees and hips are starting to give out. They can help you with all that there at Cole Plumbing. So call them today at 279-8919. That's 279-8919. And just remember, folks, when you have trouble with your bowl,
call on Cole, Joey.
We'll be right back.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
It's that time of the year. Come to think of it, it's that time of the year all the time at Larry Puckett Chevrolet. They're always offering a way to save you money on Chevrolets. The red tag sale continues. Save on the 2024 Silverado 1500 Crew Cab LT, the 2024 Chevy Blazer EV LT, and the 2024 Chevy Equinox EV 2-liter. Costco members get $1,000 toward the purchase of the 2023-24 Silverado 1500, a grand towards a 2024 Blazer EV LT. If you have a student headed off to college and they need a good, reliable vehicle, shop Larry Puckett today. Their new and pre-owned inventory is as big as anyone's in the area. Bring your extra used car in and let them make you a cash offer. Larry Puckett always lets their customers do the talking about the great prices, selection, and service. Stop by the dealership on Cobbs Ford Road in Prattville as the red tag sale continues. Call them at 334-285-9300 or shop them online at larrypuckett.com.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
Rich Thomas Weather, brought to you by Wiley Sanders Truck Lines. Truckers, if you are looking for green grass, contact Wiley Sanders Truck Lines. In business since 1959 and still growing. Call today, 855-777-9785.
Well, hi, everybody. We have been enjoying some slightly more bearable weather, and I think that will continue today. Still hot. I've got us in the mid-90s for a high temperature, but the heat index not as crazy as it has been. And the rain chance is just about minimal. Not quite zero, but close. Still, though, the high temperature today in the middle 90s. Low tonight will be in the low 70s. Rain chance is still under 20% tomorrow, Friday, but the high temperature starting tomorrow and continuing Saturday, Sunday, and early next week will be in the upper 90s each day. So some of the hottest days of the summer, and over the weekend, some widely scattered storms will start to pop up on radar, few and far between. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
For the lowest prices around on flooring and DIY flooring installation supplies, Budget Floors and More is your new best friend. Luxury vinyl plank, carpet, ceramic tile, floor installation supplies, and more with prices lower than the big box stores. Budget Floors and More, Hunter Lane across from Del Rey Publix.
We get Montgomery talking 24 hours a day. The River Region's most trusted voice. News Talk 93.1 FM, WATV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Let's go to the phones and talk to Red Top. Hey, Red Top, how you doing?
Afternoon, and if you're going to smoke cigarettes, you got to smoke those left-handed cigarettes, Joey. Those are the ones that really, really count.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
You know
I'm
what I'm
left-handed,
talking
so all of mine are left-handed.
I think you're talking about jazz cabbage.
Yeah, and speaking
The
of
devil's
jazz,
lettuce.
speaking of jazz, that's the only cigars I smoke, Black and Mild Jazz. And do you know why? Because I have a Fender Jazz bass.
Of course. That's a heavy piece of equipment right there. It's not a Les Paul, but that's a heavy.
That damn thing feels like it weighs like a bag of cement on your damn shoulder.
Now I have been
it is.
slowly searching for a Les Paul guitar, and I'm not gonna buy tens of thousands of dollars one, but
Joey,
even the
Joey, what the hell for? It weighs 15 pounds.
No, they've
My
got
body-
modernized ones that weigh like 7.
Well, then it ain't worth a damn because it's the thickness of the body that makes it worth a damn. I hate to tell you. And my jazz is a 5-string, so it's got more wood on it, Joey. I think an extra 10 pounds. Now, this Pro Services is just across the street from my house here in Highland Garden. And by the way, Eddie, it is now the jungle. I pulled up vines that were 100 feet long out of my backyard.
Oh, I bet.
I'm not kidding. And thorns you could crucify Jesus with all over the place. This is horrifying.
Yep.
So go easy on yourself. And I asked the guy, Pest Pro, about some pests. And unfortunately for me, he does not remove the neighbors that are pests.
Ah.
So I was hoping he'd get rid of a couple of my neighbors. No, they don't get rid of those, Joey, but they're real good, damn good at everything else.
They sure are.
Believe me, he should have been at this house before I got here because they still got some termites eating it up.
Folks,
Now-
hold on. That number for Pest Pro Services is 265-9990. That's 265-9990, or you can always go to ppsriverregion.com or just search Pest Pro Services on the Book of Faces. What's that phrase? When you want to know, call a pro. And Red Top just gave the testimony, and you know how Red Top can be critical, folks. He just told you these folks are great there at Pest Pro.
Yep.
Yes, they are. They just don't get rid of bad neighbors. They will get rid of their critters, but not the neighbors.
Probably
So
to
don't
their
ask them that.
credit.
Well, they can leave it up to me, I guess. I'd be thinking, hey, Joey, you reckon playing Hell's Angeles wide open for a couple hours will do it?
That might work. Just go ahead and do it.
Man, just give it time. The
Now,
crime rate will probably do it.
Let's talk about the new aviation giant in commercial airways, since the 737 MAX is now crippled Boeing and really makes Airbus the only commercial jet manufacturer in the world. Here comes the Chinese 919, which is their new version of their jet airplane. And whenever China became capitalist, which is after Joe Biden visited them in 1980, the national airlines were split into 4 conglomerates. One of these conglomerates now has developed a plane that is just about identical to the 737 MAX. But here's one interesting thing. There are only 3 companies in the world now that make commercial jet aircraft engines. They are GE, Raytheon, and Rolls-Royce. So hence, every engine in every Chinese plane and every Russian plane and every Iranian plane and every plane in the world that's not military has got either an American or a British engine.
I was about to say not military, because they have pretty kick-butt military jets.
This is true, but the Chinese Project 2025 is to make them an aviation giant. And with Boeing's fall, literally, they are planning on stepping in. And they will not be able to make a commercial jet engine until 2030 at the earliest. So all America has to do to put Chinese aviation out of business is stop selling them engines. And the British will do that with us because, of course, the British is Rolls-Royce. And selling them parts, they can't fly. And that's even being considered. But I did not realize till yesterday there were only 3 aircraft commercial jet engine companies in the world, and 2 of the 3 are American. That's damn good, don't you think, Joe?
Oh, yeah. The more you know. Well, I appreciate the call, Road Top.
Roll Tide, go Club. Thank you, guys.
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Let's go to Eric the Dog.
Hola!
What up, dog?
Hey, just remember, Pratt & Whitney makes engines, aircraft, and they make some pretty big ones.
Pratt Whitney, yeah.
I don't know if they're on commercials, but they probably are.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hola. All right. Hey, so you two guys were doing that commercial for Byron and Joey there. Y'all were talking about the discount and if you're in the doghouse. Just do yourself a favor and don't tell your wife you bought her some discount jewelry. Even though it's not discount, the quality isn't. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you can get yourself in trouble.
Oh yeah, that's amateur hour, man. You don't advertise, honey, I saved 50% on this or 45%.
Well, and also, I don't think you bring up I spent $20 grand on this. You well, maybe with some women, but I think that's the wrong woman.
Baby, this is, I think the world of you, please accept this as a token of my love. Well, how much does it cost? It's not too much for you.
My love is free, baby.
I'm not a jewelry guy. I just take them on vacation.
How
We have
are
a good
you
time.
still married, man?
How are you not married?
Oh, well, you know.
How much time you
got?
Oh, yeah.
Joy, come join the club, Joy. It's so fun. The water over here, it's great, I promise you.
Yeah, it's
I
fun.
swear, it's wonderful. Yeah.
We'll age better. Less stress.
I love that too, where people get married and they start talking about, well, true freedom is putting the right restrictions on yourself. I don't necessarily disagree.
I love when people say true freedom is having your own checking account. That's
Or you could be so bad at balancing your checking account, your wife just says you have yours and I have mine.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Did you do that on purpose?
Pretty much, yeah.
Happy
that works
happy
on multiple
to-
fronts.
As Bob Ross would say.
Oh, goodness.
A couple of days, I like that guy. I've only met him one time, but that dude's super smart.
Oh, yes, he is.
And he has a paradigm. I don't know why the mayor didn't hire him to be the consultant. Didn't Erica Thomas just get done saying that Mobile was having problems with their police and force there?
Oh, yeah, they have big problems. Chief.
It's like internally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he may actually be trying to mount a run for mayor against
what I heard.
the current mayor.
Mm-hmm.
He had
It's Chief Prime.
Had
yeah.
300 people at that rally in the park shortly after leaving the office.
Mm-hmm.
Is that doesn't have anything to do with that guy that the mayor got from down there to help him a couple days a week?
No. Batiste was, I think, left that gig in 21. No, and I think he left Chief even earlier than that. I don't think it was him.
All right. I was just making sure we have a history of importing problems from others in other regions of the country to come over here and help us make poor decisions and the city more money. So I was just wondering if we was on par or if we was trying to do a little bit. So
You feel like we're shuffling priests around?
Oh well.
Wait, for what reason?
You know what I mean. I didn't mean it that way, but just moving one problem here and putting them over there.
Yep.
Yeah,
saying nothing to see here.
Batiste just he was already retired as a chief. I think he was like a public safety director. the mayor's explanation is he's sort of a pair of outside eyes that, you know, he's not from Montgomery, so he can maybe have a fresh perspective. But the interim chief, Gray Boys, has worked here for his whole life. And no, and it's a general rule I have. When you do a new hire, I'm willing to give the person the benefit of the doubt. I'm getting a little more skeptical of the hires, given what happened with the last chief. But, you know, I'm not going to hold that against different people.
I mean, my general rule of thumb, advisor, consultant, like, unless you're showing up to work every day and actually, you know, putting in the effort, then, I mean, it's just cronyism and somebody's receiving a paycheck on the taxpayer dime.
So you're an anarchist?
No, I'm a realist.
No.
I've been around enough politicians to know.
So we're screwed, but if you're stoical about it.
We still have hope.
And vigilant and heroic and all these things. Yeah, yeah.
There's an election around the corner.
I have a serious question. I wanted to ask Andrew yesterday.
Yeah.
So what is a reasonable timeline to see improvement from the new guy whenever we get him to Simpler Dave's point? We didn't need to spend a bunch of money to find a police chief. I mean, there's organizations out there that have their finger on the pulse of this. You know, what's available from where and who, and records and reputations and all. I want the guy from Minnesota, that sheriff. I want him to come down here and be our police chief. I think it's Minnesota or Wisconsin. Which one? That the guy that wears the cowboy hat.
Oh, I kind of vaguely.
He was just on Chris something's podcast. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's a tough guy. I don't think they would support him very well. I think he'd find himself on his own in a hurry.
No, the Attorney General and Governor Ivey are taking over the MPD, Montgomery Police Department, and they've appointed as interim chief Joe Arpaio. By the way, that was a joke, not true. For the dummies out there.
We're going to put your pink ribbons on there, and then that's just what you're going to wear. Going to put stuff outside. Dude, those guys, when I was in Arizona, they were still talking about that dude.
Yep.
And those guys, the ones that I was hearing about, they liked them. You know, it was like less crime. You know, people at least thought about it before they did it. And they didn't like it. But you know what? You're not supposed to like it. It's not supposed to be an experience. It's not supposed to be like you're going to camp, you know?
I thought it was 3 hots and a cot. That's what you get.
You know.
You know, I've always took away that losers complain about the wrong things, especially being a Buccaneers fan. Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan.
Okay, I thought you meant.
Well, no, and they didn't. They actually became a winning franchise. And it was fun to watch, even before Tom Brady had his second act.
Derek Brooks, 1-7.
Oh yeah. Brad Johnson,
Mike
the QB.
Allstott.
Remember when Sean King was the quarterback for a little bit? But you go all the way back to the early days of the Buccaneers, and I think it was Doug Williams, Hall of Fame quarterback. He was the quarterback for the Bucs at that time, and the receivers were complaining he throws too hard.
Yep.
It's like, okay, you're always going to be a loser.
What do you expect from a team that wore creamsicle orange?
I like the creamsicle.
But
there is a great clip of Steve Young, who was the Bucs quarterback for a little while before he went to the Niners.
Before he got good?
In the white, mostly white uniform in a game in snow. It had to be somewhere in the north. And you can't even see the poor man. And it's like he doesn't have an offensive line. Like, Steve Young's a great, amazing player. But you got to have a line to be protected. Anyway,
sure.
It just cracks me up thinking of the old days.
That was sort of his game, though.
Well, when the head coach was asked, what did you think of your team's execution today? He goes, I'm in favor of it.
Yep. I'll never forget that.
They already murdered me for a little while. I guess it's their turn. All right, y'all. Keep up the good work, Joy. I'm enjoying these interviews you do. And I like how you'll have people on that we don't typically agree with, and you'll hear them out, and you'll challenge them on their stuff. And
yeah, because my theory is I make my points enough. I talk enough. So let's bring on more folks, even folks I disagree with, and we can hash it out later. I like getting people's ideas out there, even if I don't agree with them.
Well, I mean, some of them. But, you at least get to hear a different perspective and then get to see, how other people are thinking, and that helps to learn how to deal with them and move forward on some issues if you can figure out how people think, At least see where they're coming from. Try to have a little empathy.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. That's just me.
Well, I appreciate it, Eric.
Peace, love, and happiness.
Hey, dog.
As part of the program, in fact, this entire hour brought to you by Alabama Home Mortgage. And they're at Alabama Home Mortgage. Kim Williams and Madeline Cannon are ready to help you with buying a home. Could be you're doing it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it all starts with pre-approval, folks. And there are a lot of steps in between to closing day. There's inspections.
Of course.
Appraisals. Yeah, there's just a few steps you might not know about, and Alabama Home Mortgage can help you
They'll walk you
through
right
that.
through, man. They'll hold your hand and make sure realtors like me do the job they're supposed to do. They're
Oh, yeah.
one of the best ones in town, man, bar none. And as far as VA loans, that's the best game in town, period. Why not deal with VA professionals like them?
Oh, absolutely. And this is on a purchase or a refinance
Yes.
deal. And there are a lot of folks that might need a second act to their finances. Like, I need a new financial footing for problems of debt, or maybe you're just trying to rearrange your finances to reinvest in your property, yourself, your family. They can help you with that there at Alabama Home Mortgage. So give them a call today at 567-4223. That's 567-4223, or visit them on the web. Apply online at myalabamahomemortgage.com. There is a difference in mortgage companies. Let Kim and Madeline prove that to you today. NMLS number 1586368, an equal housing lender. So we got like a minute or two before the top of the hour break. Anything big breaking? I think Joe Biden's supposed to have his big boy press conference
Big boy
today.
press conference, yeah.
His
Was
big
that-
boy press
Was that the one in North Carolina that had about 200 people that we saw
I think
earlier?
it was 207.
No, that was Kamala Harris. She was at some event.
Oh, I thought that was just a warm up act.
That's what I was
No.
thinking, too. Oh,
The
Lord.
big boy presser, I think, is in the White House.
Oh.
I could be
Right
wrong.
after he gets back from the early bird special.
Mm-hmm. Why did they use that language, big boy? Both
It follows
Mean
up with-
Corinne Jean and John
Yeah,
Kirby.
well, it follows up with what Jill was saying after the debate. I mean,
Yeah.
it just follows that same line of thinking of like he's an infant, like he's a toddler, and we're celebrating the fact that he didn't poop his pants in the last 20 minutes.
Right. So how about this? Let's see what Trump. What has he been saying about Biden? Mr. President, are you there? Anybody there?
All of their
There he is.
persecution is only happening because I am running for president and leading very big in every single poll. And we're not just leading against crooked Joe Biden, we're leading against Kamala, and we're leading against everybody else. And our senators and our congressmen are coming in with us. We're going to have a big, big day, most important day. The radical left Democrats have spent this entire election posing as defenders of democracy. You ever hear Biden? He's a threat to democracy. He doesn't even know what the hell the term is. Trump is a threat to democracy. This guy. Low IQ. He's a low IQ individual. But they're lying in the entire world of Joe Biden's condition. I mean, you see his condition. You see them frantically trying to overturn the results of 50 state primaries and install a new candidate at the behest of their very rich donors. Do you know that we took in record numbers over the last 4 weeks, and most of it was taken in with small donors, $61 on average, $61. And those people vote. But the Democrats, I think that their funding is stopping because I think they're rich donors. They have a lot of rich donors.
Well, and to Trump's point, George Clooney came out, and then the news was that
Obama knew about
Obama
it.
gave George Clooney his blessing to write this big op-ed, essentially throwing
Nobody
Joe under the
wants
bus.
the blood on their hands, man. But this is something that there's going to be a train wreck, and they're just trying to figure out what's the best way to position all the bodies afterwards.
But didn't Clooney just hold a big fundraiser a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, helped him raise $30 million.
So he didn't realize the guy was that far gone then?
No, he probably realized it. He just didn't realize that other people would realize it.
Right.
Well, I mean, going back to what we said,
He's an
I mean,
actor.
Todd said he spoke to someone in the cabinet who 2 years ago said he absolutely cannot run.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember watching him in 2020, and he looked better in 2020 than he does now.
Lot
But even
better,
in
but still
2020, I'm like,
way off.
that looks like a despairing old man to me. So, but we got to hit this break. We have another guest coming up,
A lot.
joining us on the screen. Real quick.
Voters don't pay attention.
Shocking.
Well, you know the meme with the Indian guy.
Hmm?
Democracy is the theory of the people, by the people,
I don't know
for
the
the
meme you're
people.
talking about.
But the people are
people are the people.
Well, are worded.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. The president will close out the NATO summit in Washington with a rare solo press conference at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Mr. Biden is struggling to quell the Democratic Party's panic about his chances this November. The Israeli military says that Israeli hostages that were held in a home that was struck by tank fire last October 7th were likely killed by Hamas terrorists, not Israeli shelling. The average rate on a 30-year mortgage fell slightly this week, a modest relief for home buyers facing record-high home prices. The rate fell to 6.89% from 6.95%, according to mortgage buyer Freddie Mac. A year ago, it averaged 6.96%. The Dow is ahead 24 points, but the Nasdaq losing 370. This is SRN News.
Government debt is now exploding by an unprecedented $1 trillion every 90 days. Think of that. It's a clear sign that our nation's finances are spinning out of control, and it's putting the savings of every one of you at risk. Hello, I'm Lance Wallnow, a news analyst and best-selling author and an evangelical leader. I'm deeply concerned about the impact this runaway debt is going to have on Christians like you who have worked hard to build your own nest egg for your family. To protect your financial future in these uncertain times, you need to diversify with something tangible and proven, like physical gold. That's why I recommend a gold IRA. To learn more, text FAITH to the number 989898, and my friends at Birch Gold Group will rush you a free info kit on how to move your IRA or 401k to physical precious metals, tax and penalty free. So don't wait. Just text the word FAITH to 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs. Birch Gold Group is the only company I trust. There's no obligation. So text FAITH to 989898, and I pray this information helps you achieve prosperity and peace of mind.
The Rich Thomas Weather Network, brought to you by Alabama Wholesale Lumber. Alabama Wholesale Lumber, the best quality building materials in the river region for decades. From common builds to special orders and local delivery. Call Alabama Wholesale Lumber.
Rich Thomas Weather. Well, hi, everybody. We have been enjoying some slightly more bearable weather, and I think that will continue today. Still hot. I've got us in the mid-90s for a high temperature, but the heat index not as crazy as it has been. And the rain chance is just about minimal. Not quite zero, but close. Still, though, the high temperature today in the middle 90s. Low tonight will be in the low 70s. Rain chance is still under 20% tomorrow, Friday, but, the high temperature starting tomorrow and continuing Saturday, Sunday, and early next week will be in the upper 90s each day. So some of the hottest days of the summer, and over the weekend, some widely scattered storms will start to pop up on radar, few and far between. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
Do you have big plans this summer? Dive into summer with an ASE Credit Union vacation loan. Whether you've got a trip coming up, projects at home, or just need a little extra cash, we've got you covered. So don't put your plans on hold. Visit yourasecu.com or stop by and see us today.
1819 News.
A Montgomery woman has been sentenced to 1 year in jail for health insurance fraud. Kelly Burt was charged by the Alabama Attorney General's office for theft of almost $500,000 from the city of Montgomery. Burt did enter a guilty plea to those charges. She will spend time in jail and will also pay restitution to her former employer, Alliance Insurance Group. Burt was processing the health insurance claims from the city employees when she diverted reimbursements to her personal account, which all happened between 2017 and 2024. AG Steve Marshall says this was not a victimless crime, and he says the court sent a strong message about this case. I'll be back with more Alabama stories after this.
Some of the greatest blessings is just having people that care about you, to have someone that's just going to love you and make you feel important. They encourage you to be in church. They encourage you to be in prayer. They encourage you to be in your Bible. Now it's a part of my day every day. My house parents planted seeds in me that you can see where those seeds have sprouted in my life and helped change my life.
Big Oak Ranch, a Christian home for children needing a chance.
Police in Andalusia are searching for a couple wanted for rape charges. Angela Paredes and Jamie Sandoval are from the Pensacola, Florida area. They are accused of transporting a woman from a homeless shelter in Florida to a hotel in Andalusia where the woman was sexually assaulted. The woman was returned to the shelter and then went to police about the crime. An investigation has been launched in Anniston by the Army Criminal Investigation Division after almost 100 pistols have disappeared. Those firearms were taken from the Civilian Marksmanship Program. According to ABC 3340 News, the Southern Field Office was told about the disappearance of those pistols this past May. Costco announces an increase to its annual membership fee. It will now become $65 starting September 1st. I'm Andrea Tice.
For more news affecting Alabamians, go to 1819news.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number one in the number two business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
Summertime is a fun time at the Kickback Ranch and Event Center. Come and enjoy all the amenities: swimming, water slide, fishing, bike rides, hike our Trail of Ribbons, sign a loved one's name who has fought or is fighting cancer. We host family reunions, church retreats, birthday parties, corporate events, weddings, and more. We have cabins, cottages, tents, and an RV park. Come for the day or spend the weekend. It's a short drive down US 331 south of Montgomery. It's the Kickback Ranch and Event Center. Come join us. Kickbackranch.net.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's News and Views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
Fat broads and horse-faced lesbians.
Shut up, silly woman. You know, they used to say Abraham Lincoln got the worst press. I said, there's no way he got worse than me.
I got hairy legs. You know how you conduct yourself in a democracy?
Joey Clark.
Welcome back into the program. News and Views in the afternoon, as we call it locally. Joey Clark Live, if you're watching online. Yeah, we might as well change the branding up eventually, but I will actually have to talk to upper level manglement here at the station. Joining us now, as promised, we have the one, the only Jeff Deist. Jeff, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, Joey, doing good. How are you?
Doing quite well. I'll recommend sauna workouts. They actually work.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
And so earlier in the show, we got into a discussion with a guy who's a at-large delegate going to the Republican convention. And he's evangelical, so he's upset by the softening of the language around the issue of abortion. And even within, I think, our circles, there's disagreement on this at times. I'm much more in the camp of let the states decide, even on something like abortion, and they should be deciding on much more. Local governance is better. Or there's the other side, of course, saying we need to have one national standard. Where do you fall on this? And maybe how are some ways to think about this idea of more local governance?
Well, it's a tough question for people because they're obviously animated by it. It's an emotional issue for people on both sides. But I think what we have to understand is the 14th Amendment is at play here. The incorporation doctrine, which is not a legal doctrine with which I agree at all. I think it's absolute bunk. I don't think that the 14th Amendment creates a Bill of Rights for the states, but obviously there are a ton of legal scholars who disagree with me, including Judge Napolitano, who is a frequent guest right here on your show. So the idea that certain inalienable rights or certain core rights have to be incorporated and imposed on the states is what gets us, I think, into this conversation where the Supreme Court tends to want to federalize everything. Whole issues surrounding, let's say, the Second Amendment around abortion, as you mentioned. So I think that's not a very good way to go about understanding the Constitution. I don't think it's a very good way to go about organizing society because you get these emotive issues, and you basically have one rule decided by 9 or maybe 5 or maybe 4 justices at the Supreme Court, and that one rule applies to 330 million people across the country, and they don't like that very much. So I think it's plain as day that abortion is nowhere contemplated in the Constitution. I think it's plain as day, therefore, that under the 9th and 10th Amendments, it falls to states, just like any other issue. If you consider it murder, for example, murder laws are handled generally at the state level. So that would be a way to go about, I think, reducing some of this animosity between people in red and blue parts of the country, because they all feel like, well, I have to wake up in the morning and really care about who's on that Supreme Court because they can change the way I live in my state. So I don't like it at all, Joey. I think conservatives and libertarians who want one national federal ban on abortion, I think they're misguided. There's an awful lot of people in this country who just disagree. And wouldn't you rather have the system you want in your state here and now, as opposed to fighting this endless pitched political battle? And let's not forget, Joey, there are single issue voters when it comes to abortion. And it's not just about the justices. Then that filters into the presidential race, where you think, well, they're going to appoint so-called conservatives or liberal judges. They're not supposed to be conservative or liberal judges. They're supposed to be good judges. But nonetheless, it just weaponizes every national election. Oh my gosh, we have to care. If we live in Manhattan, we have to care about who's the senator from Alabama, because that senator is going to get to vote on judicial confirmation of the Supreme Court justice who's next up, or next nominated, I guess I should say. So it really, this one issue, abortion, it filters down into every aspect of our political lives. And I think it's just needless animosity.
Well, and it seems to me that it also, this idea of kind of a universal standard, there can only be one, plays into our foreign policy as well. I can remember early when I'm discovering, say, the libertarian literature that's out there, that it seemed like it could follow that if you believed in liberty so much, in fact, you're in a country founded in a revolution to have that liberty, that why not spread it to the entire globe by force if necessary, almost like Napoleon throughout Europe. But then you start to realize as you're going down that road, you end up essentially becoming Darth Vader. Like, it's all about order and control. It's not about actually fostering these ideas in people's hearts and minds. And are you still in the camp, say, kind of let 1,000 Liechtensteins bloom? I think that's still where I am in my ideal world, but who knows where it'll actually work out in reality. But are you still kind of in that camp?
I'm 100% in that camp. I think universalism's a huge mistake. I think it's a huge mistake in politics. There are very different conceptions of liberty. There are very different conceptions of good government, very different conceptions of rights. Go ask, a Zen Buddhist in the Far East. Go speak to someone in South America. Go speak to someone in Russia. Go speak to someone in Europe. There are very different ideas about what the role of the state is. And so when you come up with these universal doctrines, I think that's a mistake. And America's gotten so big. Let's not forget that this was really a collection of states. Those states created the Constitution, not the other way around. The states created the federal government. The states created, passed all the amendments in the U.S. Constitution, not the people as a mass or under some popular vote system. That's not how it happened, nor was it supposed to be. And your listeners who are Catholic, just look at the subsidiarity principle, which is a huge part of Catholicism and the Catholic Church itself. And we have examples of that. I mean, obviously the federalist system in our Constitution itself, but I mean, you can look at modern day Switzerland, which has a cantonal system. The cantons there, I believe there's 26 of them, are equivalent to our states. And a lot more decision making is done at the cantonal level, including decisions about immigration into the country, which is interesting. And also the tax burden is somewhat, it's not a perfect analogy, but it's somewhat flipped in the sense that the bulk of your taxes go to your canton, and only a small portion of your overall tax burden goes to the federal government of Switzerland, which really isn't charged with much beyond national defense and maintaining the Swiss franc and the central bank. So here, obviously, maybe 80-90% of your taxes go to the feds, and then the additional 5 or 10% go to your state. So I think that it's something to think about.
Yeah, and it really is upside down. We've been having a lot of local conversations with rise in violent crime and people calling for occupational taxes. And I've admitted that if I could live in a world where we did away with federal and state taxes, I would be more willing to have a conversation about a local tax with people who are literally my neighbors. That just seems to make a lot more sense to me than our current system we live in, and what a system it is, in the sense that, man, you've been right for years. The politics dropping its pretenses, the mask is off, and it seems like we're adding more and more to the meaningless words category. So democracy comes to mind. What does that even mean? But you just mentioned it, the very concept of freedom and liberty, and the way people bandy about these sort of loaded terms. They're almost meaningless. It just means whatever, pick the person and you can find the meaning.
Well, it's so true. We're living in a world of euphemisms. We see this constantly in our media. You see this constantly in the social media world too. In other words, it's not just the official spokespeople. It filters down to everyone. We all fall into this trap of using euphemisms for everything. Meaningless words is the phrase Orwell coined in 1946 in his great essay, Politics in the English Language. And so he basically says words mean what we want them to mean, sort of Alice in Wonderland, and that democracy sort of became this catch-all phrase for anything roughly good that we approve of in governance, and fascism became the opposite, right? But the problem is words have to have precise meaning, because if they don't, then we really are living in this sort of postmodern scape where we can't have truths. We can't have agreed upon truths in society, right? So that strikes me as a really serious problem. And these euphemisms that we have to suffer under constantly, war is war, peace is peace, black is white, 2 + 2 = 4, all of these things that we thought we understood. And I would say that it has accelerated, certainly. The use of language in politics where people aren't even pretending, they're not even trying anymore. There's no longer this idea that whoever becomes president will represent everybody and we'll put aside our differences and sort of go home for 4 years. And yeah, it won't be perfect. And we might wish the other guy or gal was president, but that's out the window now. Now this is just a naked posture that we need to win, and we need to vanquish the other side politically as a result. And for the moment, the rhetoric is just political. But vanquishing people doesn't work. In other words, political minorities don't just go away. Right? The Soviet Union suppressed people for 80 years. And yet, even after all that time, successive generations, all of that economic hardship, all of that brutality and imprisonment and murder and gulags, even then, political opposition to the Soviet state, which could mean your very life, it still couldn't be suppressed. I mean, think about that.
That is a beautiful thing when you see that whole warp and woof of that story there.
I mean, it's just remarkable. So the way to deal with political minorities is to give them more purchase, more sovereignty in their area. And for some reason, we just seem to have totally lost this. We've been moving, the whole 20th century was one of political centralization, moving from having decision-making made very locally to maybe at the state level, then at the DC level, and then ultimately at the international level. More and more of the rules we have to live under, whether it's climate change or peacekeeping or the UN. So I'd like to think that maybe the 21st century will see things go the other direction, that things will become more decentralized.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of technology that could send us that way, and but it does come down to the ideas that win the day. And again, folks, we're talking to Jeff Deist. He's currently the general counsel, great company Monetary Metals, former president of the Mises Institute there in Auburn, Alabama, and chief of staff once upon a time to Dr. Ron Paul when he was there in the Congress. And, this different information silos we all live in and how we really are living in different worlds. I had this experience last night. I'm sitting there watching some TV with my grandfather, 87-year-old grandfather. His son, one of his sons, calls up, and he's a big liberal. And so this is kind of a fun thing they do. They've been arguing since he was a teenager at the kitchen table over politics. But my grandfather, knowing who I am, puts my uncle, just retired as a major editor at a major paper in Florida, on speakerphone. So tell me, son, about what your take is on Biden, all this stuff. And I got to tell you, Jeff, I love my uncle, but it's like we are living in different worlds. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was saying it is a cult. It is a fascist cult. This Trump thing, it's going to destroy the country utterly. Who would have known that they were able to hide Biden's illness so well from us? I'm like, and he's not a dumb man. I'm like, how are you saying these things? I kept my mouth shut. But if that can happen within very own families, no wonder people are talking past one another. It's almost like you got to curate your algorithms properly to actually get some truth anymore.
Well, your grandfather put the speaker on for a reason, Joey. You were supposed to hear that. You were supposed to chime in. And let's not forget, Trump actually was president for 4 years. And also, let's not forget that fascism has a definition. It is an authoritarian rule or a suppression of political, media, and speech and assembly freedoms. All of this combined with, perhaps most importantly, a melding of the corporate world with the state. Right. So there are times we can look at in history that meet that definition. Under that precise definition, Trump was no more or less fascist than George W. Bush, who created, No Child Left Behind, and the Department of Homeland Security. His own head of that got to run the company, or was a shareholder, sold the machines to the airports for scanning. Barack Obama had his Obamacare bill, which was literally forced people to go buy ostensibly private health insurance from a marketplace. I mean, that's textbook fascism in terms of this corporatism that I mentioned. So this idea that, Trump is somehow beyond the pale relative to LBJ, relative to Nixon, relative to Truman, who made a decision on Hiroshima, or relative to FDR, relative to Abraham Lincoln invading the South. I mean, that's just absolutely nonsense.
Well, and I almost did jump in because I always go for the joke first. I almost said, hey, Unc, if you really want to crap your pants, look up a Substack called Gray Mirror of the Nihilist Prince by this guy named Curtis Yarvin, but I held back.
That was wise. That was wise. Sending people to Curtis Yarvin is could be dangerous.
Yeah, especially somebody who's been a lifelong liberal and Democrat in the journalism business forever. But it does seem like we're at a point where something has to give here. Or maybe I'm wrong. Could it be that we sort of muddle through that, say, Trump becomes president again? You're not expecting like the big overthrow that the Democrats are fearing. It's probably going to be kind of what Trump was the last term.
Well, yeah, I think we muddle through, but I do think it polarizes further. We're seeing this in Europe. We're getting, I think, a preview, both in the UK and in France. These recent elections pulled far to the left in terms of majoritarianism, but the victories on the right were generally amongst candidates, MPs who were further to the right, who were more on the nationalist level of things. So even though the left had a big victory in France, Marine Le Pen's party gained seats because there's been a hollowing out of the more centrist parties, and they're losing seats to the I guess what we could call the more extremes. So I think we're going to see that in the U.S. and we've already seen that. I mean, let's just be fair here. Even 20 years ago, was an AOC possible? Probably not. I mean, people had to have at least some degree of intelligence or restraint or achievement, presumably. I mean, there's always been serious dummies in the House, but I mean, it seems like it's intensifying. And then when I speak of this winnowing away of the center, I mean, if you look at the rhetoric of Marjorie Taylor Greene or something like that, there's again no pretense that we're going to have some sort of democratic compromise down the middle where nobody gets everything they want, but both sides get some of what they want. I mean, that's just out the window. It's no longer a persuasion game. It's a mobilization game.
Now, and with, I think it's obvious now Trump destroyed the old Republican Party. It is essentially a populist revolt within the Republican Party. And you saw with the vacating of the speaker chair, all the mess that's been in Congress there for the Republicans. While that's been going on, Democrats been acting like we're the adults in the room and we've really got our party together. Well, that seemed to all, for some reason, I don't think it's as organic as folks are making out to be, had changed after the Biden debate performance, where you're now seeing every major media outlet trying to push him out. A lot of, say, a knife fight within the Democratic Party. Do you think that's actually, if there is a populist revolt that could possibly come out, is that a healthy development within the Democratic Party?
Well, they didn't have to have that debate. In fact, they didn't have to have any debates until after the convention. So one is tempted to suspect that that was intentional, to show the world his infirmities, for one. And now if we look at the campaign that's being orchestrated against him, not a pleasant time in his life, but I mean, you have major celebrities and starting drip by drip to be some members of the House, even some members of the Senate. You start to get into some big names who have not yet weighed in, but have been rumored, like a Chuck Schumer. And, you know, then you've got a period where if you go back and study the period around Watergate, how the pressure grew around Nixon to resign. I mean, even day by day, just a week can make a huge difference. So there's something happening on left. It is populist, but if they really believe that Trump was the end of democracy, if they really believed he was, you know, Hitler light or whatever it meant, the end of democracy in America, fascism, come home. If they really thought that, I mean, they would either be, installing RFK Jr. as their candidate, or they would be calling for suspension of elections, or, you know, I think that the stridency here in their tone, most Americans just aren't buying it. And I think deep down, the Democrats don't buy it either.
Well, but I mean, before I let you go, isn't at least for all his bad policies, isn't Joe Biden just a decent man?
Well, I keep hearing that word decent applied to him. And I think to myself, anybody who knows anything about the state of Delaware, which is tiny, I mean, it's the size of a county in many, many states, knows the history of the DuPont family, who made their fortune, perhaps not in the most environmentally friendly manner, with DuPont Chemical, but nonetheless lived very, very well. And so not only do you have the DuPont family background, but you also have Delaware status as a corporate haven. In other words, for many, many decades, changing now, companies chose to incorporate in Delaware because of some friendly laws there that just make it tougher for shareholders or third parties to prevail when they sue corporations in that jurisdiction. So Delaware has always been a fiefdom. It's always been ripe with a lot of insider, close-knit control. And so for Joe Biden to ever become a senator from the state of Delaware, people had to approve that and allow that. So this idea that he's been a Boy Scout and he's just this kindly old man who got a little too old and infirm for the job, that is a huge whitewashing of a guy who has plagiarized, a guy who's lied consistently, a guy who's exaggerated consistently, and a guy who, if we ever get the truth, I'm sure we'll find out was just as sharp elbowed as LBJ, just not as effective and smart.
There you go. And I've always got the sense too that Biden seems to. It's one thing to respect a person's tragedies in their lives, but he seems to lean into tragedy in his own life pretty heavily, and especially when he was running in 2020. And since then, he's always sounds like he's giving a eulogy. And so, maybe it would be poetic justice if we get any justice, if he essentially gives a eulogy, let the old man give a eulogy of his own career on the way out. But it's just a matter of convincing him. I mean, if you had to predict, how do you think this shakes out with his candidacy?
Well, he really is digging in. It feels like they have to do something. No, it feels like he's got to go. And I personally, I don't think Kamala Harris is a candidate that Trump just beats easily. I mean, the first female and who happens to be, well, sort of black, claims to be black. That strikes me as a tougher opponent than people are imagining for Trump, because people on the right like to think of her as, verbose, but not eloquent. She says weird, goofy stuff all the time. She has a strange laugh, very off-putting voice. But nonetheless, I think she is definitely a bigger challenge to Trump than Biden at this point.
Yeah, and we'll see. I think the way I've been saying to Jeff is Act 1 was all the Trump trials and the conviction and the primaries. Act 1 culminated in that debate. Act 2 is now the conventions and the plot to kind of remove Biden. And in a way, me and many other people, say in the new kind of Twitterverse, we're predicting this, kind of seeing this. But Act 3, once the candidates are decided, I don't think anybody knows what's going to actually happen in October.
Absolutely not. I agree.
Yeah. Well, I always appreciate your time, Jeff. If folks want to check out what you're up to these days, how can they do so?
Just find me on Twitter at Jeff Deist, all one word.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Joey.
Again,
Take
folks,
care,
thank you. That is Jeff Deist. Always appreciate his time on the program. And, I mean, no, you can't predict what's going to happen in October. I was sitting there going, maybe I could pull something out of your backside, Joey, here. But no, I think it's too far away.
All right, so I think they are victims of their own demise here. The clock's working against both sides, really. All right, so say Biden is not at the top of the ticket.
Okay.
All right. You going Schumer, you going Harris, you going Newsom. Who you going with? I mean, sure, they all present better than Biden, but I don't know if you don't have that institutional or everyone doesn't know who they are. So you still are burning money in a way that you wouldn't have to spend otherwise. So, I mean, I can see a scenario where if it just looks like it's holding steady, all the Dems are still going to vote Dem just because, and all the Republicans are voting Republican just because, and the independents at this point are so jaded by both sides they stay at home, then you got yourself a knife fight.
Mm-hmm.
But now if they swap horses, I don't know who gives them enough of a momentum boost to actually this turn into a positive other than Michelle Obama.
Yeah, Michelle Obama could be the one that, because I was about to say, how do you jump over Harris? But then also think about, and I know there were behind the scenes meetings. Hakeem Jeffries just came out today and did a big press conference, kind of, you know, they're not, all these leaders in the Democratic Party aren't saying yes or no.
Right.
Or they'll say, well, he's the candidate. It's all very conditional statements coming out. But say if you're Shamari Figures, you're going up against Caroline Dobson in this brand new congressional district too. Who would you rather have at the top of the ticket, Joe Biden or Kamala Harris?
I wouldn't want to have either one of them. And I know what you're going at. I mean,
but you don't want Biden. I think that would destroy his chances in terms. It's a turnout game down the ballot.
But I don't know if Kamala has the support amongst African Americans, you know, nationwide.
Yeah,
I mean,
not in the way Obama did.
No, definitely not.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of reasons for that. Just watch her.
You say, well, how do you jump over? I mean, what was the convention where president basically just shuffled through, and it was FDR and landed on Truman a second time, right?
Yeah. Well, thank God it wasn't Henry Wallace. It was like pen pals with Stalin.
It was like the four nominees, and he just shuffled them through.
Yeah, he wanted a true successor to the crown. I mean, to the presidency.
Right.
Yeah.
But
last true kind of strong president, FDR.
I
kind of like a king.
He had great forearms. I don't know who it is, man. Schumer, maybe. Schumer might do it. Ozzy might do it. But I just don't see this being a winnable situation with anyone else at the top of the ticket. There's got to be somebody that's like, you know, like game changer.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We got in another break. First, this part of the program, again, brought to you by Dillon Rings. Don't forget about that Christmas in July sale. Ongoing now. 10 to 45% off on select items there at Dillon Rings. You got to stop by 119 Brown Springs Road. See that great selection. Get that Christmas shopping done early. And as Byron was saying, if you're in the doghouse, get by there. Get you some great piece of jewelry for 10, 20, 30, 45% off. Up to 45% off. So,
and ladies, y'all can put your guys in the doghouse real quick.
Yeah, just go ahead. Like that's how. Yeah, we're going to create demand.
Yeah,
ladies, get mad at your man for you got reasons already.
It won't take 5 minutes.
And then say, "Well, I was hearing that jackass on the radio talking about the jewelry place."
Next time the ad comes up, just turn up the volume.
Yeah, right. Get by 119 Brown Springs Road, and it could be maybe you already have a piece of jewelry that you want to have cleaned up, have it shimmer and shine like it's brand new. They can do that there. It's called a spa treatment at Dillon Rings, or maybe an appraisal with inflation the way it's been. If you hadn't had that, say, heirloom jewelry reappraised in several years,
values have changed, Joey.
And they're the gold standard of appraisals there for jewelry at Dillon Rings. And don't forget, of course, their great, amazing custom design work and so many other things they can do for you. They're a full-service jewelry shop. So check them out today. You can always go to DillonRings.com or search for Dillon Rings on the Book of Faces or Instagram. But I really encourage you, again, go by that brand new renovated showroom, 119 Brown Springs Road, right here in Montgomery, just off of Atlanta Highway. And be sure to tell them, well, you heard about him here from those guys on the radio.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings 6 till 9 and afternoons 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Hey folks, thank you for making CTE Outdoor Power a preferred dealer and Hustler one of the most popular riding mowers. Recently, I met a couple from Evergreen who discovered us because friends recommended both CTE and Hustler. They heard our team of friendly, helpful professionals would guide them to the Hustler model that's the best fit for them, and that because we support all the products we sell, we take the hassle out of future needed parts and service. They like Hustler because of the highest quality and warranty, and that we partner with Hustler to offer 0% interest financing. Now, if you haven't discovered Hustler and CTE yet, now is the perfect time because this month, when you mention this ad, we'll pay the sales tax when you purchase any new riding mower. Folks, can you get all that anywhere else? CTE Outdoor Power, I-85 at Perry Hill Road and CTEOutdoorPower.com.
Hi there, I'm Madeline Cannon with Alabama Home Mortgage. Getting pre-approved is the first step towards home ownership. People are often scared or nervous about taking that first step, but I'll tell you, it's nothing to be scared of. At Alabama Home Mortgage, we will take the first step and every step along the way with you. Call us at 567-4223. We will gather the information needed to tell you exactly what you qualify for. After a call to Alabama Home Mortgage, you will know what price point to shop for, what down payment is required, if any, and what your monthly mortgage payment will look like. We take all the guessing out of it. Then, when you find the house you want to make your home, you are ready to make an offer. Along with your offer, you will submit your Alabama Home Mortgage pre-approval letter. This shows sellers that you've already taken the steps necessary to ensure that you qualify to purchase their home. Wait no longer. It's time to take that first step together. Call me at 567-4223 or start the process online at myalabamahomemortgage.com.
That's Alabama Home Mortgage because, folks, there is a difference in mortgage companies. NMLS 1586-36-8, Equal Housing Lender.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com.
The Health and Wealth Show. The Health and Wealth Show. The show so nice, we said it twice. Weekday evenings at 6 on News Talk 93.1 WACV. The Health.
Wake it up, son. Joke's over, hey?
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number one in the number two business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
If it concerns your community, you'll hear about it on News Talk 93.1. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back to News and Views in the afternoon. 272-9228 if you want to get in on the conversation. That's 272-9228. Well, the inherent contempt vote against Merrick Garland failed because of 4 Republicans.
Yeah,
Four.
about right.
4.
Which 4?
Let me click my little link here. One is Tom McClintock from California. Another is John Duarte from California. Another is David Joyce from Ohio. And, of course, Mike Turner from Ohio. Those 4. Yeah, I tip my hat. I've been sharing it on social media. Anna Paulina Luna did, I think, great work on this. And, yep, when you have thin margins in your majority, this is the sort of crap that's going to happen. You just need more folks that are in on the cause. And I know for a fact Turner's truly a career guy. He's the head of the Intelligence Committee, I believe. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Just frustrating when I think folks make a great argument. Like, you just threw Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro in jail. Why? Because they didn't answer a congressional subpoena.
Right.
Okay, here's a congressional subpoena, and the AG's not going to answer. Well, I didn't do anything wrong.
Yep.
And in fact, people have been disregarding congressional subpoenas for years. And it's like, well, then why did you go after Bannon and Navarro in the way you did? But we're worried they're going to jail us. If Trump gets back in there, he's going to jail his political opponents. So we have to jail our political opponent.
Because fascists.
Yeah. And one thing I almost got into with Jeff is, actually, I think I've got the clip. James Lindsay. He's been making this case all around the country, all around the world for a while now. This was all the way back with Glenn Beck. And, people use the word fascism. People use the word communism, like the Chinese communists. Or corporatism or whatever. Lindsay's got this idea that actually the communism, fascism are old terms. And he maybe uses the word neo-communism, or you need to come up, I think, just with a completely different term. Because the way the system, say China works, is not how the old Bolshevik system worked necessarily. So actually, let's hear out James Lindsay, because he presents it much better than I ever could. You know this guy, Byron?
I'm not familiar.
He's I saw him speak up there in Birmingham, met him. He's been on the show once. I want to have him back because he was named an anti-government general by the SPLC. So definitely want to have him back. Wait, you're telling me like an atheist classical liberal, that is James Lindsay, is all of a sudden the new right-wing boogeyman?
I wonder how far up their hit list he goes. Like, is he in the top 10 at this point?
Yeah, I don't even know, but I got to have him back on soon. I think he'd be game. But here in the meantime is James explaining, maybe we need to update our terms about these systems being built around it.
Not that they had to incorporate fascism to make communism work. And so how did they do this? Well, Mao did his thing. The CCP runs China into a disaster. A couple of leaders later, you have Deng Xiaoping working with Kissinger and so on, and they open up the markets of China. But it's all at the pleasure of the party. It's all state capitalism, which is by definition fascism. So what do you have there? You have a communism with fascism inside of it. Communo-fascism. So what is the dialectical opposite of communo-fascism? It's a fascism with communism inside of it. Fascio-communism. So you have East Asia. We just don't have Oceania to always be at war with East Asia yet. So if you make China into this behemoth, a communism with fascism running inside of it, so that it solves the production problem of the Soviet disaster of communism because it has now an open market that's running state capitalism, but still very wealth generating market. And then you can create the opposite of that in the West. If you can create a fascist oligarchy that decides to, sure, the people in the top are going to be the lords and ladies of the new aristocracy, and we are all going to be the serfs, mined for our data and our pod while we enjoy our mealworms and crickets. But it'll be equitable. So if you take that fascist structure and stick a communism inside of it, and then those are the two world powers. Not exactly enemies, but frenemies. A communism with fascism inside next to a fascism with communism inside. And you let those things run next to each other. The natural process of the dialectic will eventually fuse all of it. And what you'll end up with is the kingdom. You'll end up with communism that works this time. And I think that that's the program. And so they are definitely using the race Marxists because the Marxists are extraordinarily destabilizing. But the people who are funding this, the people who are dumping millions upon millions of dollars, billions of dollars into critical race theory to drag it out of the university where it should have just kind of languished because it's stupid. It got funded out of the university. That's how. It didn't spontaneously get out of the university. Bags and bags and bags of cash got dumped into fueling these movements, especially around the Occupy Wall Street time. Good heavens. To protect the banks. And so the fascist with the communist inside was born. And that's the objective. And they, because this is their magic. It's their faith. They believe that if you put those two opposites next to each other, and they're the only two opposites, that eventually the dialectical process will average it all out, but raise it up to a higher level. The Marxist word for that is sublate. The German word is Aufheben, which is the word that Hegel and Marx use over and over.
There you go. And it makes a lot of sense.
It does. It's scary as hell.
Makes a lot of sense. And especially when you see what was just put out. This is why Ben Shapiro was testifying the other day in front of Congress. And now Elon Musk is going to be suing a particular group. Can't remember the name of the group off the top of my head.
That's not.
But it's one massive advertising conglomerate. So where all the biggest brands, so you're talking billions and billions of dollars, are put in one pot, and this group creates standards.
Yep.
And then there will be outside pressure campaigns saying, oh, you're putting hateful things on your platforms, Facebook. If you want to solve this problem that we're creating for you in the media, why not just accept an independent fact checker or standard bearer? Oh, and by the way, we have one furnished for you. Here you go.
In-house.
And so what it creates is this conglomerate of these massive multinational corporations using their advertising dollars not as a means to get their name out there. That's part of it, but it's a means to control who actually has a big mouthpiece. And this is to his point. What are they then pushing? Well, it's a corporatist system pushing, yes, very much neo-Marxist ideas. That instead of it being the proletariat against the bourgeoisie and the capitalist class, it is now, say, people of color against white supremacy. Or it could be women against the patriarchy. Or it could be sexuality, like gay, queer, LGBT. We need to queer the rest of society against, say, the straight patriarchal system. And so instead of it being the old classic economic class, it becomes this identity politics. And that's what these essentially fascist corporate systems are pushing. The beautiful thing is people now have eyes on this. It's starting to you can at least start to make sense of what the heck is even going on here. How are they pulling these things off? And now you have big players like an Elon Musk saying, well, I'm going to take these folks down. I'm at least going to create the spotlight by taking them to court. And members of the government and other commentators are starting to wake up to this. Another I'd recommend, we've played him before, is Mike Benz. Brilliant. He really got into the use of these techniques in foreign policy, to where there are, say, the government leaders, but then there is this whole group of corporations that are ready to, that slipstream that they create or that draft that they create. So the government goes in to say Ukraine. And, oh, no, we need freedom and democracy in Ukraine, while, let's actually grab all those agricultural lands right there. And so it creates new investment opportunities and at the same time allows them more power to push particular ideologies that hurt, I think, individual wealth and household wealth in favor of massive concentrations of wealth that can then be used to control the population that has none, that's renting, that is eating the bugs, so to speak.
So still, it's people in authority accumulating more wealth for themselves and keeping us distracted by whatever little shiny brass toy, does it at the time, whether it's woke versus conservative, fascist versus democracy, or what have you. So long as they turn their billions into trillions and, everything keeps rocking along, things are going to be hunky-dory.
Yeah, and I don't think most folks even involved are that wise to this stuff. I think a lot of people are just following the number, following the dollar, or feeling the pressure in this particular way. But it's very clear there are some operators who know exactly what they're doing.
And I think Jeff hit the nail on the head when he was talking about the fluid nature of language, when things don't actually hold consistent meaning amongst, different people. Like, you can talk about democracy like it's this great flowery thing, and the United States, we're the leader of democracy across the world. Or you say that to me, and I'm like, no, we're not a democracy.
Right.
We're a republic. It's just the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And since we don't really communicate with each other and kind of live in our silos, we look for those reinforcing positions. And I mean, I don't see this getting.
Well, and by the way, the thing I was saying earlier about, the government gets in Ukraine, I don't mean like Biden or Obama or Trump. I mean, the CIA gets into Ukraine. And that's where you start to see, even when you go, it's a democracy, it's a republic. It's like, I think it's sort of a technocratic, managerial, whatever you want to call it. It's something we haven't seen before.
Or rose by any other name.
And it's like a hermit crab that found a beautiful shell to live in called U.S. democracy or the American Republic. And it's the good thing, again, is that people are waking up to this.
Yeah,
Maybe not enough, but more
what does
and
that
more.
mean, though? I mean, if we're waking up, I mean, how do you push back against power structures like that?
I think a lot of their power comes from you buying into their system unknowingly. So people do not need to underestimate the power of just changing your mind. You might not even change your habits and behaviors immediately, but just changing your mind about when you watch, say, ABC Nightly News, you don't go, oh, well, that's just the truth. You go, well, no, this is a pre-packaged 15-minute display that is curated and put on. And no, they are, though. More and more young people do not watch this stuff.
Let me ask you,
the average age of all these news organizations is going up of viewership and readers.
do you believe that people have greater critical thinking skills this generation than they did 2 generations ago?
It depends on the person.
Yeah.
Accounting for the bell curve, yes, actually. I think there are people much more prone to the sophistication of our propaganda.
I think that critical thinking skills have diminished by the population.
Yeah, I mean, and you just have to check. But hey, we got to hit a break. First, this part of the program brought to you by Bo Goodson and the Goodson Group. And there at the Goodson Group, Bo and his team are ready to help you whether you're looking to buy or sell in the Montgomery or surrounding areas. Bo's been working in the River Region real estate market for 4, almost 5 decades, folks. And so he's seen all the good, the bad, and the ugly and can help you out, again, whether you're looking to buy or sell, or maybe you're looking for somebody to manage your property as a rental. They can do that for you there at the Goodson Group. And then the crown jewel at the Goodson Group is the Bo Goodson Real Estate School. A lot of folks have gone through that course and found great success, whether it's more knowledgeable private players or it's fully licensed realtors. So check out the Goodson Group today. You can always go to thegoodsongroup.com or give them a call at 551-0225. That's 551-0225. Bo Goodson and the Goodson Group. Great sponsor here of News and Views in the afternoon. We'll be right back.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
Shashi's Bakery and Fine Foods welcomes you, where every bite feels like coming home. Shashi's has been serving up all of your favorites for years in their eclectic homey dining room. Enjoy a relaxing lunch with a glass of wine. Everything from a meat and 3 to grilled Reubens, fried shrimp, fried oysters and shrimp and crab gumbo, Greek-style snapper, and smoked beef tenderloin. Everything is made homemade, and at Shashi's, the veggies come from the Montgomery Curb Market. If you're craving Shashi's cinnamon rolls, cream cheese brownies, or if you can't stop thinking about their fresh chicken salad, then head home to Shashi's. Put Saturday brunch back on your calendar and enjoy all of your favorites again. Whether it's Friday Eve, a birthday, or whatever the occasion, come home to Shashi's Bakery and Fine Foods. Shashi's Bakery and Fine Foods, an iconic, locally owned restaurant located at 1700 Mulberry Street.
A jumbo hopper barge has a capacity of about 1,750 tons, equivalent about 70 tractor-trailer loads.
Klein Jones is the executive director of the Tennessee River Valley Association and the Tennessee Cumberland Waterway Council. We talk inland waterways and their significance to this nation. Listen to What's Working Saturday noon or find us online at whatsworkingcam.com.
I like what I like and I do what I want.
Do what you want, be who you want, and elevate your game to fabulous at Wind Creek Atmore. Stay in our luxurious suites and rooms, relax in the tranquil spa, play any of our 1,700 exciting games on our spacious gaming floor. No matter what fabulous means to you, you'll find it here. Wind Creek Atmore. It's your kind of fabulous. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number 1 in the number 2 business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
News and talk without the static. The River Region's most trusted voice. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Closing moments of the program. Let's go to the phones and talk to Ray Bowles from Bradville Carpet. Hey, Ray. How you doing?
I'm good. Literally pulling back into the store from going to Columbus, Georgia, to pick up a golf cart from Uncle Arnold and a bedroom set from his house because they're moving to Auburn, and took it to Hardaway for Uncle Hamp. And Dad had the nerve to fuss at me about being gone all day. I'm like, they're your brothers.
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds like a
When
country
they
song
tell
to me.
Yeah, I'm like, Dad, when they ask me to do something, all I can say is yes, sir.
Exactly right. You was raised right.
Yeah, there's nothing else you can do. Yeah, I got Dr. Birch in the truck with me. I suckered him to ride with me. And so, yeah, he got to see the other side of the family and how the rest of the family lives. So the moral of the story is, if you need to move some bedroom furniture from a 2-story building that was built in 1980, call Dr. Birch. He's more than happy to help. He might be a chemistry professor by trade, but he's really good at moving stuff.
There you go. Was there a piano involved?
No, there was a piano. We just went right by it. I'm like, no.
Good idea.
Yeah. But we are back at the store. I have no clue to what happened at the store today. So if you need a floor, call 285-8117, but do not ask for me because I'm totally lost until this evening when I can get my head wrapped around what's going on in the office today.
And get on that number, folks, 285-8117, and be sure to tell them, well, you heard Ray here on the radio with Joey and Eddie.
Guys, have a great day.
All right.
You too.
See you, Ray.
Did you learn anything today, Eddie?
Yeah. I still don't like politics.
And you're here with me every day.
I know.
You must like me. I kind of like you.
It's the study of man is what I
Oh,
think.
yeah,
Study of
okay.
man. Yeah. But nah, politicians certainly make me sick. Although ours, the best.
Oh, right.
The best.
And we tolerate them.
Yeah.
You know how they say in dating, hate the players, not the game?
Right.
I kind of hate the game and not the players.
Ah.
And you kind of, sometimes you develop hate for the players too, but it's more like, I think the game is awful. I try to respect the person that's in front of me. Yeah.
Against us, Joey. Against us.
We do have time. Let's go to Joe.
All right.
Hey, Joe.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing, Joe?
All right. I was calling. I'm listening to y'all discussion in a minute. What is your definition of a republic?
A representative government?
I learned it as a representative democracy.
Yeah, but democracy would connote more majoritarian control, whereas a republic would be more to the given polities of a nation.
My definition is a representative democracy. It came from the Romans. The Greeks had pure democracy, and the Romans moved to a republic, a representative democracy. I read John Wall's comments, and he said democracy leads to socialism. So maybe we've been on the wrong track all these years. Be blessed. I'm out.
Later, Joe.
See you, Joe.
Yeah, and democracy was one foot of the stool that the founders were looking at. 272-9228. Did we learn anything else?
If you want to move furniture from upstairs, second floor, call Ray. He's got a doctor that can move it for you. I learned that.
Pretty
Learned
good deal right there.
Yep.
That's a pretty good
I mean,
deal.
a doctor is going to move it for you guys. That's not just an average moving guy. It's a doctor. So while he's moving furniture, you can ask him questions like, why does my back hurt?
Well, and, after talking to the sponsor of the constitutional carry bill that is now law, did we convince all the critics and the haters?
No, and unfortunately, he explained it very well, but I got a feeling it went over most people's heads.
Yeah.
Because they don't see it the same way he does.
It's like people don't really make decisions, especially political ones, rationally. Myself and yourself included.
Yeah, emotionally gets involved. It's hard to shut these emotions down.
Yeah, it's like riding an elephant.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever ridden an elephant.
You ride one every day when you make a choice dealing with your brain, Eddie.
Oh.
And on that note, happy hour with Greg Budell. He's next.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. At least one person is dead in Vermont after the remnants of Hurricane Beryl brought flooding. More than 100 people had to be rescued from rushing waters after heavy rain that started Wednesday and persisted into Thursday. residents of an apartment building in the town of Plainfield had only 15 minutes to evacuate before the entire structure was swept away. Flooding and tornadoes from Beryl have also caused problems in New York and New Hampshire. California authorities say a man is in custody after fatally shooting his wife.